George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. A Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, a full night of NBA playoffs on this Tuesday. The Pacers, 8-point home favorites to eliminate the Bucks tonight. They are without Damian Lillard. That's a 3 o'clock tip on NBA TV. Then at MSG, 4:30 on TNT and Max. The Knicks looking to put away the Pistons. They are 5.5-point favorites to do so. 5:30 back on NBA TV from Boston. The Celtics are 11.5-point favorites. They can put away the Magic. And in the nightcap, 7 o'clock on TNT and Max. And that series tied at 2 games apiece. The Clippers are 1.5-point favorites at the Nuggets. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Kings and an interim head coach, Doug Christie, finalizing a multi-year deal to give him the job full-time. Christie took over in December after the firing of Mike Brown. Over on the diamond, don't look now. The Mariners 12-4 over their last 16 games. They sit atop the American League West. They start a quick 2-game set with the Angels tonight. Bryce Miller on the bump for Seattle. Jack Kahanowitz for Los Angeles. That's a 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. And in the NFL, the 49ers and tight end George Kittle agreeing to a 4-year extension, reportedly worth $76.4 million with $40 million guaranteed. That deal keeps him in San Francisco through the 2029 season. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The original home of the Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays 9 to noon. 1080 The Fan. This is Danny and Dusty.
Meringatang is going to be a thing.
You're not coining anything new.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
I'll throw some monkey sounds in there and call it good.
The old Danny meringue pie.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
The Fan.
Good afternoon. Hey, welcome in. Happy Tuesday, everybody. How we all doing?
I mean, everybody's back now.
Yeah, we're all back. Let's go.
There we go.
Yeah, Rust, you were out yesterday too?
I was.
All right.
Yeah, I had a wife and a daughter that were up all night. Sunday night
Oh,
throwing up.
man.
Good times.
Man. Yeah. I went, I was gone yesterday. I never do these things. This is the first field trip I've ever been on. Was yesterday.
Drew the short straw.
No. I actually had a great time.
Oh, did you?
I had a great time.
When we talked last week, you said you didn't know where you were going. Where'd you end up going?
We went. I showed up to the school and didn't know where I was going.
Yeah, boy.
If I'm being quite honest here, I signed up and forgot, and then just didn't even look at an email. Didn't even care. And then in the morning, I was like, "Hey, where are you going on your field trip?" And my daughter goes, "I think to go do some gardening." And I was like, wait a minute. Not quite sure how this is going to go for me. And so I showed up, and it was actually pretty cool. Pretty cool. The local high school, they have an ag department.
Okay.
And they have like an entire farm where that's where their shop is. And that's where they have like this ag department.
The rural areas still have those.
So they do things like they build sheds and outposts. They're like
Do they still have 4-H
senior...
out there?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Believe me, I got the pitch on Future Farmers of America yesterday, and I felt like it was directed at me. The guy who was talking about it was looking at me the whole time, and I was like, "You should probably look at these guys."
Yeah.
Like
I'm set on my
dude.
path.
I'm like a former farmer of America at this point, dude. But they do
Washed Farmers of America.
I was like, you missed me. that ship has sailed, my man. But they had like all these little things like I don't know. There was a gardening part of it. They did a bunch of ag stuff and FFA stuff. Learned about worm farms.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Tilling the soil.
Yeah, like they have worm farms. And they use the worm poop. Basically hyper fertilizer.
Like nitrates?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was educational for me too.
I got worms.
Yeah, that's right. Way to go, Harry. It was first field trip in the books. I didn't lose anybody. That was my big thing. You know, you got a bunch. You're in charge of a group of children.
Yeah. They can wander off.
Now, I don't know who they are.
And they frown upon shot callers, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do. Also swearing. Didn't do any of that.
Ooh.
So good. I felt like I was a good parent yesterday. So
To all of the
I
children.
got that going for me, which is nice.
There you go.
Yeah, other parents, you're welcome. Got
Yeah.
your kids home.
No little demons you had to deal with?
No.
No.
No, I think my daughter's teacher, she knew what she was working with here. She did not give me a hard group of children.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was. She knew that I had no idea where I was going, probably, which she was right.
Mhm.
And so
She looked at you and went, not a chance.
No,
Can't give him little Tommy.
So that's where I was yesterday. Rust, my day was far better than yours.
Yeah, sounds like it.
House full of sick.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you.
Nope.
Well, yeah, when you got a wife and daughter up all night doing that, that means the entire house is up all night.
So Chip Kelly's return to Autzen Stadium when he was the coach at UCLA.
Mhm.
I was working that game for the Fan. We hosted the pregame show. I'm standing down on the field right next to dirt, and I got a text message from my wife that said, "You need to come home. We all have the flu." There is nothing worse than when your whole family has the
Oh,
flu.
God.
And they were like, they had two like young kids then. And it was, I drove home 2 hours. I walk in the door. I open up the front door. It was the most foul smell. My entire home smelled because everybody
Both
was
ends.
just, it was awful. So that, Rust, anytime anybody's like sick family, I'm like, no, you can't do that. Nope, stay home. That's the worst.
We ran out of Emitrol.
Yeah. And guess what? Only person in the house that didn't get a flu shot? This guy.
Don't feel that fire.
Still got it.
Okay.
Oh, I got it. I got it worse than anybody. But it was like 2 days later, and I was just sitting there going, this is going to be bad. This is going to be really bad. I know what I'm getting myself into, and it was the worst, man. It was the worst. Sick families.
Yeah, not looking forward to that in the child rearing stages. not looking forward to that. Hard pass.
Yeah, man.
Look, man, injuries, surgeries. I'm pretty resilient with that stuff.
No.
I am the biggest baby on the face of the planet when I'm sick.
No.
I hate. I mean, everybody
so am
hates
I.
it.
I'm a big baby.
Oh no, when I'm sick, everybody knows. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
I want no part of. I'm just no.
No.
Mm-mm.
I can't do that. Like, my wife is already like tougher than me.
Yeah.
So I like when I get sick, I just try to soldier through. You know, some would say thug it out.
Yeah.
But when you're sick, nope. I just try to put on a brave face and dying inside.
That's when I let it go.
Yeah.
That's why I just like nope. Crippling body pain,
Yeah.
surgeries, stuff like that. Walking through it. Yep. Chew up some painkillers. Call it good. Go through my day. Be miserable. Be fine. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Tears running down my face. Fine. I get the sniffles. Wham! Wham! Wham!
I lay in bed and it's just basically most of the day just, hey, babe, you bring me some ginger ale?
Yeah, can you bring me some food? I'm gonna in a bucket.
Yeah. No, I don't do it. I don't do that. Well, we're all back today. What a day to be back, huh? You guys talked some Oregon spring game yesterday.
We put it on the back burner for.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, for you.
Okay.
Yeah. We mentioned the Ducks getting 10 guys in the draft, which came as a surprise. 10 was more than we even talked about. We talked about getting 8, maybe 9.
No, 9 was the goal. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we went down that list, and it was like 9 they were going to get, and it was like 10 or 11, but they got 10 on the dot. And then everybody else just kind of, you look at the guys that signed free agent deals, they had a ton of guys signing free agent deals too. I think the final number was up to 17.
Yeah. It's a lot.
17 guys getting a shot in the NFL is pretty damn good. Was at the spring game though this weekend. A texter saying, I talked to Christian Gonzalez, guest coach, during the broadcast. It was a star-studded event down there. 40,000 people were there.
There you go.
They may have had more. It was only upper corner.
That was empty.
That was the only part that was empty. They had a good showing. We'll talk a little bit about the game because I know people want hot takes after a spring game. It's a spring game. But mission accomplished. Environment was cool. And then we went to the baseball game.
Yes. Good game, too.
Well, for one team.
Yeah.
On Saturday, it was a bludgeoning.
Yes.
Oregon just hit home run after home run. But the coolest part was Bryce Betcher's first pitch. He went and played in the spring game, fully padded, shows up to the stadium, throws out the first pitch of the baseball game.
Just walked over.
Just walked straight over because it was a quick turnaround. And I saw him after. I go, hey, you going to the baseball game? He's like, yeah, dude, throwing out the first pitch. I go, you've got a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
He shows up, spatted up. He was still spatted up from the game. Tape on, everything, shoulder pads, throws out the first pitch. That place went bonkers when he did that.
That's a good feeling for what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean he knew what he was doing there. But it was a cool day Saturday. We'll talk a little bit about the spring game today. We had what a night in the NBA playoffs. You want to talk about a tale of two games? Holy guacamole! That was something that we saw. We saw one team quiet quit, and then saw
might not even quiet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of quiet quitting, it was by definition a quiet quit by the Miami Heat. Yeah. They showed up to work.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything.
Did nothing.
And everybody looked around and noticed, hey, this guy's not even doing anything. Except for his whole roster of people.
Yeah.
So
got paid though.
They got paid, which is quiet quitting. Like you're not doing your job, but you're there.
Got your playoff bonus.
That's what I'm talking about. So we got to talk about that. The Cavs move on. And then we had an unbelievable game.
Yes.
In the second one. We got some NFL news. George Kittle. Get his money. That's about right.
Yeah.
Trey McBride reset the market. George Kittle comes over the top. People's elbow drops it on.
Says thank you.
And so we've got that to discuss. I have questions for you because we saw it in the NFL draft. Now we're seeing it in the NBA draft. The early entrants have been announced.
Yes. There's a couple guys on there that a bit of a surprise. There are some guys that are returning to college that we got news on today because the entrance in there that was a little surprising.
Yeah. And we are 13 days. 13 days away from the lottery happening.
Not this Monday, not this coming Monday, Monday after that.
Let's go.
It's crazy how look, the season ends and you're like, "Oh, the off season's so long." No, it's not.
All right.
It's fast.
All right.
Once May 12th hits, when we know where the Blazers are sitting at in the lottery, then the work begins.
All right. I'm excited. We may have a special guest popping in at the top of the hour as well. As he's in the building, and it depends on when he gets done with his other stuff around here. But we may have a chance to talk with Alex Molden, former Duck, New Orleans Saints, first overall pick. His son Elijah just re-signed with the Chargers. He's an author. Like Alex Molden will make you feel inspired, and then you sit back and you go, I got some work to do.
Yeah,
I got some work to do. He's a great dude. Great dude. But
I want if he does pop in, I want to pick his brain on writing a book.
I don't think he's ready for that from you.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm wondering if he's ready for the Danny Meringue experience.
You gotta roll the dice.
Yeah. This isn't his first rodeo though. This is his new book.
Yeah.
That is out. So Alex may be stopping in at the top of the hour. But where we got to start this bad boy off, Dylan Brooks poked the bear.
Again.
And it's the last bear you want to poke. And it was a butthurt bear. Literally.
Quite literally.
A butthurt bear.
A Jimmy bear.
This is not a good sign for the Houston Rockets. Danny Dusty on the Fan. The Golden State Warriors take a commanding 3-1 lead over the Houston Rockets last night with a dub in Golden State. That court was awesome. I like that court. 109-106.
You like that court?
I liked it.
Then again, you're an Oregon guy. You probably like freaking Matthew Knight court.
The new one's better than the old one. I'm not a huge fan of it. I liked that court last night with the bridge. I thought it was cool.
I think it's hideous.
I liked it. Now, if you're asking me what my favorite court of all time is, it's the old Memorial Coliseum with the white keys
white
and
gorgeous
in the red circle.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite. I like the simple look. But as far as like the fancy courts that they have for this City Edition uniforms, that was one of the better ones.
Ugh.
Indiana's bad.
Oh God, yes.
Brooklyn bad.
Yes.
Any of the
Hornets ones were dope a couple of years ago with the honeycomb.
The honeycomb?
Yeah. The honeycomb court,
Yeah. That was cool.
They brought it back a couple years ago, close to the old throwback Larry Johnson court.
Yeah.
Like that's the one, like the subtle
Sweet.
honeycomb is on the outside the paint, inside the 3-point line.
Yeah. I like the bridge though.
Yeah.
I thought it was good last night. I like the bridge.
I hate those jerseys too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think the whole thing's hideous.
Not the worst of the City Edition uniforms. A lot of those are bad.
Yes.
A lot of them are bad. All right, let's get to this actual game because, look, there are so many angles. First of all, this series is getting nasty. Actually, it started nasty, and it started with physicality because Houston was like, look, if they have the skill, we've got to muck it up, and they've been trying to do that through the entirety of this series. Well, you saw it last night, and boy, oh boy, from Draymond Green getting into it,
Twice.
with just about everything. Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, anybody that really would want to get in his face. You had that. But the one where I think it actually changed the game was at the 2:20 mark, the cameras zoomed in on Jimmy Butler talking to Dillon Brooks. And I don't know what started this interaction.
I would imagine Dillon Brooks chirping.
Well, Jimmy Butler, I'm no lip reader.
Oh, you can tell exactly.
He called him a bum and a B.
And he's been busting his ass for years.
Yeah. From that point on, Dillon Brooks did something that he should not have done because Jimmy Butler, from that point on, there was a 2:20 mark in the second quarter, went 6 of 9 from the field. 10 of 10 from the free throw line because he started getting aggressive and getting to the rim. He scored 23 of his 27 points.
He had 4 points
from
in
that
the first half.
From that moment on, he went absolutely crazy. And it really started, I was like, uh-oh. It was with the foul. A minute later, Dillon Brooks gets a run out on a fast break, and Jimmy Butler probably should have been called a flagrant, but he got him on the elbow. Fouled him as hard as you possibly could foul him. There was all glass, no break.
Also,
gas, no breaks.
The takeaway I have from the Houston Rockets, they're the worst dribbling team in the NBA.
Oh.
Because if you saw that, it was back-to-back plays. Dillon Brooks got the leak out, and it looked like he was dribbling with hockey gloves. Like, just slapping at the ball. And I'm just like, what? Why are you not pulling away? Like, you could see him struggling to get his gait and dribble at the same time. Like, he couldn't push the ball out and go. It was like, what is happening here? The same thing happened. It was either the next possession, the possession after that. Fred VanVleet. The same thing happened, and he struggles, and he has to try to, like, drop it off and scramble. And it was like, what the hell is happening here? Can no one on this team dribble? And, like, the more I watched, the more I was like, Jalen Green is the only player on this team that can dribble to a spot on the floor.
You know what that is reminiscent of? The Boston Celtics before they turned the corner. They had nobody that could dribble.
Yeah.
And it was when the two Jays were young.
Jaylen Brown can't go left. Jason Tatum's handle, he dribbled it up at his shoulders.
And it was everybody said this team is young and talented, but that is their weakness.
They can't get to their spots.
And lo and behold, they get some ball handlers and they go and they win a title.
And they improve their handling, and
yeah,
Jalen and Jason start driving.
And it's just one of those things where you look at it from Houston is a great regular season team. They have got all of the makings and the markers of what a really damn good franchise has the building blocks to compete for championships in the future. But this is where when they say winning in the playoffs is a learned this is it. And you're seeing it right in front of your eyes with where Houston needs to take that next step.
They're losing on the margins. And they missed 12 free throws. They can't get up there's a couple plays down the stretch. One of them that Brandon Podziemski, who had an incredible game. And here's the thing. Let me preface this. The Rockets had a fantastic game plan. Anyone but Steph.
Mm-hmm.
And it was working until Dylan poked Jimmy. But if Podziemski beats you, Podziemski beats you. You just tip your hat and you go, hey,
well,
he did it.
If their game plan is to take Steph away, eliminate Draymond Green between the years, they did that flawlessly. And I thought Steve Kerr answered the question perfectly after the game. He was asked, have you guys figured some things out? And he goes, no, we haven't figured anything out.
No, because they're winning on the margins. And that's literally what it comes down to.
He said, for I think most teams, you'll look at 37% from three and you'll be like, but they were like, well, no, because we were minus 10 in 3-point percentage to the team that we were the team that we were playing. The Rockets shoot 47% from three, and the Warriors shoot 37% from three. Obviously, more volume in Golden State, but they weren't hitting at the clip that they really wanted to be hitting at, because you look at it and you say, all right, how many are they getting on the other end of the floor? They were more efficient in that regard. So Kerr is like, we're not efficient there. Draymond Green played like a guy that had 0 technical fouls when he picked up an early technical foul, which should not have been a tech on Draymond, I don't think. But everybody that says that's a reputation call, 100%. He got it on his reputation. I think most of the time, if it was most people, I don't think you're getting a technical foul in the playoffs for that. But he got it nonetheless, and then still continued to play like a moron.
I mean, what he did with Tari Eason, number 1, he tripped him. Number 2, he kicked him. Number 3, he kept his legs there and then grabbed his jersey after Tari rightfully was like, I'm going to knock the taste out of your mouth. Like, this is...
And that was the flagrant foul.
Yes.
That was after his technical.
Number 1, it should not be allowed to be a flagrant foul. The ball is dead.
Yeah.
You can't have a flagrant foul when the ball is dead. I can't wait to see how the league excuses this.
Well,
because it's 100% a technical foul, and Draymond should have been gone out of the game.
They were slick in the way that they described it, because the official who mic'd up with, come on, mic technology, we can have better microphones with these guys. But they said during the live ball action is when he did the tripping, which was flagrant, and everything else I think they said was incidental after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
nobody bought it, but all that is saying is that, yeah, we screwed up on the first technical foul. We don't want to run Draymond Green.
I think that the first one was a tech though too. Like, it was a cheap shot that he threw.
Nah.
Number 1 on the screen.
I think it's a playoff.
I mean, that's why look, I'll say it right now. I don't like Dillon Brooks, and I think he's destructive to teams. I think in the long run, Dillon Brooks is a detriment to your team. He proved it with the Grizzlies, and he's proving it with the Rockets. I love the idea of Dillon Brooks. Draymond Green is dirty. Dillon Brooks is dirty. There's no doubt about it. But over the lifespan of their careers, Draymond's antics lead to wins. Dillon Brooks, those lead to losses. Yeah. Time after time after time.
But they also went 52-30 in the regular season this year.
I know.
And when you have the amount of talent that Draymond Green has been surrounded with, I mean, it is not
and he's
necessarily him leading. Yeah, he hurt them in the NBA Finals.
Don't get me wrong, but I'm talking
about they lost a championship because of him.
Yep.
I mean,
no doubt about it.
Dillon Brooks can do the same thing, and he can be as just a valuable of a piece to a championship team as Draymond Green was because of that. But he doesn't have the talent that Draymond has around him. And that's the big thing is, like, if Draymond Green was on Memphis or Draymond Green was on Houston, we'd all be saying the same things about Draymond as we do Dillon Brooks, because it can be a detriment to the team because you're just not as talented everywhere else. Dillon Brooks is not playing with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant.
No, you're right. But I don't think that they're anywhere close to the same level of player.
No.
I think Draymond is leagues ahead of Dillon Brooks in basically every capacity.
They're both really good on defense.
They are. Draymond's a generational defender. Dillon's a very good defender. I think
Yep.
there's a very real line. But Brooks firing up Jimmy, which Jimmy flat out said in the postgame, yeah, I really appreciate somebody firing me up. Thank you.
Don't poke that bear.
And she who asked you? You got mics. You can see. You can go back and see. And look, Jimmy and Dame are very much the same on a basketball court. Jimmy will chirp a little bit. Dame will chirp a little bit, but they don't do it first. But it's the second you rile them up, have fun.
Yep.
Because they're going to go at you. Because they're both under-recruited, 2 and 3 star guys that were just everything they've done is they're self-made. And if you're going to put that wood on the fire, have fun with it.
Yeah.
But down the stretch, these games have all come down to the margins. And the Rockets testing Draymond Green of all players on a 15-foot post-up. What the hell are you doing, Ime?
Well, who else were you going to go to in that moment? Şengün was awesome. They took away Fred VanVleet.
Get him deeper.
Yeah, but it looked like Şengün panicked too.
2 possessions before that, Fred VanVleet dribbling around for 20 seconds and then just hucking up a floater that gets blocked by Pods.
And I think the idea is there with Ime. It's the execution by his guys, right? I mean, I'm not going to say, what are you doing, Ime? Because that was a panic move by Şengün, who had otherwise a superstar-worthy performance.
And a hell of a rebound by Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
The other thing that came out of this game, Ime blinked with Steven Adams, and I wish he wouldn't have done it. In the fourth quarter, with about, 5.5 to go, they go to Haka Adams. Steven Adams is a 53% free throw shooter on his career. Keep him on the floor. If you're getting one free throw, you're basically better than 1 point per possession. Basically, that's better than your average offense in the playoffs for you right now. Getting 1 point of possession, and you can put the Warriors in the bonus.
Yeah, it was just so hard because Steven Adams
they didn't even test it.
But Steven Adams was laboring every time he hit the floor. He was slow to get up.
He was good.
He was, but it looked like he was on his last leg.
Or run it.
Every single time he was getting up off the floor, it was like, oh boy. That's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Steven
but
Adams
I agree.
Plus 16.
Yep.
And I don't like single game plus minus generally, but like the impact he
Their
had.
double bigs went. That was a huge.
They couldn't
huge
do
factor.
anything with them.
Yeah. Huge factor.
Offensively or defensively. They couldn't get to the rim when Steven Adams looked like OKC Steven Adams.
That block, two-handed block,
looked
like a volleyball player.
And then he came over from the other side 2 possessions later, sends another one, and you're just like, yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe stick with this.
Boy, I would love
Your
to
offense sucks anyways.
I'd love to get the truth serum from Adams, and he'll be honest about, mate, just didn't have it.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see kind of the unpacking of all that.
But now it goes 3-1 instead of 2-2, all because you lost in the margins.
Yep, and on the other side of it, the Cavaliers are into the conference semifinals because the Miami Heat quit. We'll talk about that after Rust with SportsCenter.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Big's Chicken. Try their smoked and fried wings, tossed with a perfect dry rub and served with a trio of killer sauces. Menus at bigschicken.com. First on the Fan, a full night of NBA playoffs on this Tuesday. The Pacers, 8-point home favorites to eliminate the Bucks tonight. They are without Damian Lillard after a torn Achilles. 3 o'clock tip on NBA TV. Then at MSG, 4:30 on TNT and Max. The Knicks looking to put away the Pistons. They are 5.5-point favorites to do so. 5:30 back on NBA TV from Boston. The Celtics, 11.5-point favorites and can put away the Magic. And in the nightcap, 7 o'clock on TNT and Max. The series tied at 2 games apiece. The Clippers, 1.5-point favorites at the Nuggets. ESPN Shams Charani reporting the Kings and interim head coach Doug Christie finalizing a multi-year deal to give him the job full-time. Christie took over in December after the firing of Mike Brown. Over in baseball, the Mariners 12-4 over their last 16 games. They sit atop the American League West. Let's start a quick 2-game set with the Angels tonight. Bryce Miller starting for Seattle. Jack Kahanowitz for L.A. It's a 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. And the Niners and tight end George Kittle agreeing to a 4-year extension, reportedly worth $76.4 million with $40 million guaranteed. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now, Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan.
Gain a global perspective and specialized skills that many of today's top employers are seeking with an MBA from University of Maryland Global Campus. Study online and complete your degree in just 16 months for about
Miami Heat quite quit on Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and the Miami Heat. Cavs thumped Miami 138-83. And what's crazy about that is that's not really indicative of how bad that game was.
No, I mean, it was over immediately.
Yeah.
It was over.
Sweepsies.
Jared Allen gets a deflection steal, just jump in the gap, runs out and dunks. And I was like, oh, Cleveland wants to take care of this thing in a hurry. It got up to 70-25 at one point in time in the first half.
It was 30-8. 30-8.
I mean, it was over. The only way the Heat were scoring in that first quarter was when they got in semi-transition and there was a little bit of a conflict with the Cleveland defense and one of the Heat players back cut.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only way they scored. Donovan Mitchell came out, and the way he was hitting threes, it reminded me of Dame. Like the way he was just walking into threes with the confidence that he plays. It was.
Excuse me, 35-8. It got up to 35-8 with 2:14 to go in the first quarter.
35 points before another team scores 10.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
I mean, again, it was 70-25.
Yeah. I think my son summed it up best. Davion Mitchell at the end of the first quarter, do you see what he did? Hit the 39-footer, and he goes, oh my gosh, he hit a buzzer beater to get your butt kicked after first quarter. And I was like, yeah, you're right, buddy.
I mean,
like,
did you see Spo?
It was 43-17 after one. They hit a buzzer beater three-pointer to make it 43-17. It looked like a team that did not want to be out there. It looked like a coach that wanted to murder his entire roster. Mm-hmm. And
Davion like half celebrated, and Spo basically like snapped at him like, "Get over here."
Yeah. What are you
celebrating?
Don't be happy about anything right now. We're getting more than doubled up.
You're getting annihilated. This was this is the note that came out of this series. Cleveland won this series by 122 combined points. It's the most lopsided series in NBA playoff history.
122 points?
Across 4 games.
Mind you, Mind you, there was a game. Remember the very first game of the playoffs for the Oklahoma City Thunder?
51-point win.
They won by 51. And how much could they win by? Because obviously Memphis won a game, which skews this quite tremendously. But I mean, there was a 51-point defeat of an 8 seed already in this.
This was 55.
Yeah, and this was 55.
Yeah.
So you've had what do you got? 51 and 19. Then you had
It was 70 through the first two. How much did Memphis win by?
And then no, Memphis didn't win. They got swept.
That's right.
I'm my bad on that. And then they had a 6-point win,
So 76.
and a 2-point win.
So 78.
Yeah, and that was a throttling, and it was only 78.
Yeah. They almost
Crazy.
almost doubled that.
Crazy to think of how lopsided this entire series was, and now you have Miami is. They're gonna blow this thing up now. Like, can they blow it up? How do you blow it up?
I don't know, man. Because look, I want to give Tyler Harrow some credit. He had an incredible regular season. He was god awful in the playoffs. He was 1 of 10 last night. Bam. We talked about this when the Defensive Player of the Year stuff came out. Tumani Kamara had more or Defensive Player of the Year votes than Bam did.
Yeah.
Like, where do you go from here? Like the Giannis stuff is making a bunch of noise, and Miami media is like, well, they could go after Giannis, and I'm like, with what?
Ooh.
With what?
Hey, I got betting odds on Giannis. You want to know where Miami is?
Yeah.
They're excuse me, 6th.
Yeah.
6th best odds to land Giannis.
Yeah, they don't have
Right in front of the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 7th best odds. So if you want to know how realistic it is, the Blazers are 12-1, Miami's 10-1.
And you know why the Blazers are that close? Because they control some of Milwaukee's picks. If Giannis gets moved, don't be surprised if one of two teams don't get involved. Portland and New Orleans. Why? Because they hold the keys to Milwaukee's draft future.
Just don't give them the 2031 pick. Actually, you know what? It may behoove the Blazers to just be like, no. And just watch them suffer for 6 more years until they get that pick.
I mean, it's going to be really interesting. And here's the thing.
Because the Blazers could pick swap with a team that's rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then you don't have to worry about tanking anymore because they can do it for you without Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Well, what those teams do is like what you saw Phoenix do this year, which is like the Rockets own our pick. We can't bottom out. We can't give them a better asset. Well, and that's why they tried for the play.
Guess what? If Giannis ain't there, they're bottoming out. Because think of this. Lillard just ruptured his Achilles, and I feel awful for Damian Lillard. Brooke Lopez not getting any
37
younger.
years old.
Okay.
Remember, he was this close to being a Houston Rocket, too.
And then you have Giannis no longer going to be with the franchise because if he asks out, they're not going to be like, you know what? No, we're going to keep you. If player wants out, he's going to get out. So you're looking at your future is going to be with Jericho Sims, Bobby Portis, Kyle Kuzma, Gary Trent Jr., Kevin Porter Jr.
They have almost no money committed outside of Kyle Kuzma.
Torian Prince.
Yeah. Kuzma's got 2 years, 40, I think, left. I think he's like 20 a year.
And without Giannis and with Dame out for a year, guess what free agent's going to go to Milwaukee?
Well, I mean, they don't go there anyways.
None.
It's gonna be really interesting. Like I don't want to belabor the Giannis trade stuff too much until it actually happens. But at this point in time, I said it yesterday, I'd be stunned if Giannis doesn't ask out. Like it's normally for any trade, I'm like less than 5%. I'm at 80% with Giannis asking out at this point. And we've talked about this for a couple of weeks now. He wants to stay in the East, but do you think Milwaukee's going to want him in conference?
No. The betting odds, they have Brooklyn number 1.
Brooklyn's where he wants to go.
3-1. And by the way, when you get betting odds on a player's next team, usually not the best sign that he's going to be sticking around. Houston 4-1.
Houston is my number 1.
Oklahoma City 5-1 because if they don't have any draft assets, guess who has all the draft picks? OKC. And they can just say.
And you're asking for all
Giannis?
the picks and Chet and something.
Yeah. and you get Giannis.
Mhm.
So they are 5-1. Then the Orlando Magic at 7-1.
It would be Franz, Black, picks. Which Paolo and Giannis just sounds like a fun, but also god awful.
Well, no, hold on now 1 minute.
Mm.
You said if the Blazers could get in on that deal, if they could get in on that deal, because if Oklahoma City gives them all the picks, then that may kind of shove the Blazers out of a 3-team deal. But
if Orlando gets in there,
if Orlando gets in there and they're going to give up one of those 2 bigs,
Franz is a perfect fit.
Okay. And then
if you're Portland, then you're tossing in Shaden, the necessary salary, which would probably be, I'd imagine it'd be Shaden, Jeremy, or Shaden.
And you
DA.
get Franz, and they get their pick swaps back, but not 2031.
Yeah. You give them their swaps, Shaden and DA, or Shaden and Jeremy to Milwaukee,
and you get
Franz.
I like that. I'm not opposed to that. I'm listening.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you have Golden State at 8-1, which I'm not quite sure
They have nothing to give up.
what they can offer, especially on the contract side.
Yeah. I mean,
And I don't know. I mean, you'd have to give up Jimmy
or Draymond.
Just Scott.
Yeah.
And I don't think Milwaukee wants to go down the road of, you know what, we'll give you Giannis.
Yeah.
Give us Draymond Green, though.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
and
I don't think they're doing that.
And Moody.
Yeah,
and
I don't.
Kuminga.
I'm not picking up what they're putting down. And then that's when you get into Miami and Portland territory.
Yeah.
Interesting. I hate this, but I feel like I have to read it just because Lakers have 33-1 odds to land Giannis. They just couldn't do it. I mean, unless they get rid of LeBron and they say Luka and Giannis, and you know what would make me the most angry person if that trade were to happen.
Oh God.
If LeBron's like, yeah, I'm out, and they're like, all right, find a way to get Giannis, I quit.
Yeah.
I quit.
You'd have the best rim runner in modern NBA history playing with the best lob passer maybe ever.
And they are middle of the pack. They're at 33-1. At the very bottom, the Sacramento Kings, Phoenix Suns, 76ers, and Timberwolves, all 66-1 odds. None of them are in the running for Giannis.
I think your number one teams, number 1, Houston, number 2, Oklahoma City, number 3, a combination of the Knicks and Nets, and then the Magic.
Okay.
I don't think Milwaukee's going to trade him in conference. They're not going to want to see him 3 or 4 times a year.
I wouldn't want to.
I mean, and here's the other thing that came with this. John Horst, the general manager, just got his deal. We really haven't talked about this, but when it happened, I was like, oh, that's a big deal. That's a big, big deal because that gives him the power. You're not afraid of, if you're the Bucks and you know this potential is coming, you go, oh yeah, we need to have somebody in here who has the power and has, the contract to make this dirty. Because I'm telling you right now, no matter how great the relationship is, it's going to get messy.
Mm-hmm.
We saw this in Portland. It's going to get messy. And Giannis is going to want what he wants. But as a small market in Milwaukee, they're not going to send him to Siberia.
They're going to do what Portland did to Dame.
They're going to, and that's why I think it's OKC or Houston.
Yeah, it may not be as number 1 because the number 1 team often in these situations screws up these deals because they lowball Miami.
And they don't have the assets.
Even though Brooklyn has assets. They got picks too.
Kind of.
Yeah, I'm with you. OKC would be another one
I don't
slam
think,
my head against.
I don't
the
think
door.
they'd send him to OKC though because of what it would do. Like you
just give him a championship. Yeah.
Not only that, from what I've been able to gather on the intel side, Giannis wants to go to a big city and a big market.
Well, Oklahoma City is
definitely not.
Oh no,
and neither is Orlando.
Yeah, but he's got Disney World,
New York and Houston.
All right, New York and Houston.
Those are the 2 that I'm watching in that regard.
Okay. Hey, we got some news today on the Beavs and the Cougs and where they are going to be landing. What a treat this actually is that they already have. Oregon State's already got 8 of their kickoff times announced for this fall.
Nice.
Where can you find them next on the Fan?
Check out
Got an announcement today on the Pac-12 and the television network schedule for both Oregon and Oregon State this year. And I love this for the Beavs and the Cougs because we know kick times for all of their home games this year already. You know where you're going to be able to find these games with plenty of notice, and all of them are wildly accessible. 9 games.
That's always better.
9 games between the Beavs and the Cougs are going to be on the CW this year. 2 are going to be on ESPN, both of them Oregon State games, and 2 will be on CBS. And both of those games will be Washington State games, but Oregon State will be a part of one of them. So here's how it's going to sort out for Oregon State and Washington State. For the Beavs, the September 6th game against Fresno State, the October 11th game against Wake Forest, the October 18th game against Lafayette, and the November 8th game against Sam Houston are all going to be on the CW. For Washington State, their August 30th game against Idaho, September 6th against San Diego State, October 25th against Toledo, and November 15th against Louisiana Tech are going to be on, CW.
CW, yep.
And then you got, then the November 29th game against Oregon State on the CW. The 2 games for ESPN, Beavs taking on Cal in the season opener on August 30th, and the September 26th game against Houston.
That'll be a fun one.
Those are 2 great games that are going to be on ESPN for Oregon State. And then the 2 CBS games are Oregon State, Washington State on the 1st of November, and the Washington State UW game on September 20th. I like the fact that you have basically your home base for where the home games are all going to be, and it's going to be on CW, ESPN, and CBS, like accessible,
all readily available.
And then if you look at where road games are going to be, they're going to be on. You look at the UW Washington State game. That's a CBS game. That is where Big Ten games are played. You know exactly where you're going if you're a Washington fan for that game as well. So for Oregon State, you're thinking, all right, where's like the Oregon game going to be? Because you go on the road, it's going to be in Autzen, it's going to be with the Big Ten partner. You're also looking at CBS or, likelihood that might be like an NBC game, probably. You're going to be able to watch every single one of these damn games for both of these teams, and they're going to be accessible. And you already know 8 for Oregon State and 6 for Washington State, what time those games are going to start at.
Yeah, you get some Pac-12 after dark.
A lot of Pac-12 after dark. So we know of 14 games already. 7 of them are going to be 7 o'clock or later. For Oregon State, Cal, Houston, Lafayette, Sam Houston, those are all 7 or 7:30 games.
And let's be honest, Pullman and Corvallis for Pac-12 after dark, there's almost nowhere where it ever got weirder than those 2 places.
Yeah. And then for Washington State, 7 or 7:15, you got 3 games: Idaho, San Diego State, Louisiana Tech. Now, I will go to bat for a big game for Oregon State this year. That Houston game on the 26th, that is going to be a 9:30 Central Time start for Houston because it's a 7:30 kick in Corvallis. These are the times where Pac-12 After Dark works in your favor, and you should be damn happy that it works that way. Like when you bring East Coast teams over and you have to play them late, perfect. Let's go.
And that's why it gets weird.
Yeah, and that game has a tendency to get
Houston, Washington State,
very weird.
That game's going to get weird.
I'm here for it. But for the Pac-12, this is a really difficult stretch for the Pac-12 for scheduling, television, availability, doing right by your fan bases. I think in this time, I don't know if the Pac-12 could handle it any better. Because right now with these 2 teams that everybody's saying not marketable, you are on 3 very damn good networks right now for Oregon State and Washington State both.
Stable.
And everybody, is it the money that everybody else is getting? No, it's not. But for the fans right now, you have the ability to see every single game, and we could not say that when the Pac-12 was even around.
Yeah. So there's at least a mild improvement, and you're still able to hold on and
Yeah.
hopefully do something.
And then, look, they are protecting the rivalry between Oregon State and Washington State that they want to build up.
Mhm.
They're going to play twice this year. The first game at Washington State, which will be on CBS, that is going to be a 3:30 kick.
Mhm.
Perfect. And then it'll either be the second one, which is going to be at Oregon State. It's either going to be at 4 or 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
And I think for that one, giddy up, Buttercup. Let's have that game is a primetime game. You're going to have a lot of eyes that are going to be able to watch you. And that one is the one November 1st at Oregon State.
Mhm.
CBS, primetime game. What more can you ask for?
No, I mean,
I like
it's
that.
a good place to be.
Yep. So sign me up for this.
Right now, the Pac-12 has more broadcast partners than member institutions.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. And if you're wondering where the rest of the games, it all depends on what conference they're playing in because they're all non-league games after that. So you're going to be beholden to the broadcast partners and their television deals. So your Mountain West ones, you're probably going to be on either ESPN or CBS Sports. And if you are for the Big Ten games, it's going to be, Fox, CBS, NBC for those ones. But right now, like the one in Lubbock, no, Big 12, ABC, ESPN, family of networks. Oregon, you're looking at the Big 10 window there. You go to Appalachian State. No idea. I have no idea. But CBS Sports maybe,
Probably.
or ESPN. Those ones are tough.
That has ESPN2 written all over it.
Tulsa, ESPN, or CBS Sports, you're going to be on there. So you're going to be able to watch their games. That's the best part.
Mhm.
Just the road games, you have no idea where
Yeah.
they're going to be.
And again, App State and Tulsa, those are two weird teams.
Yeah. I mean, the way that both of these programs have built their schedule, they have that windfall of money from last year and this year, or this upcoming year, from the Pac-12 dissolving. You have given yourself an opportunity with the era of the transfer portal and everything else to win a lot of football games. And your schedule is not a bunch of behemoths, but right now, stack up wins and keep your program in a good place, because the worst thing you could do is play a schedule where you're going up against a bunch of teams where you're out leveraged from a talent and financial standpoint, and you're getting smacked and everybody goes down. Then when the Pac-12 rebuilds up, then you start the work again to get back to that window of, hey, every 3-4 years we make a run for a league title and a prominent seat at the table. That's where you want to be, and especially
it's
with
still
Boise
viable.
joining. Yeah, it is. It absolutely. Look at Boise State's a prime example of it. Just this past year in the college football playoff, if you peel off or even have a good showing in those marquee games like Boise did in Eugene, then all of a sudden your profile gets raised, and just take care of your damn business from there on out, and you could find yourself in the playoff too.
It's a good place for them to be, considering where things were 2 years ago.
No doubt about it. All right, 503-864-6326. That is the fan text line. We got some feedback coming in on Beavs, Cougs, and some of the NBA musings that we've had. We are waiting on Alex Molden may just pop in the studio, sit down with us. He's a former first-round pick and hell of a player in the National Football League for the New Orleans Saints, and former Oregon Duck who has a son in the NFL now, and Elijah, who just re-signed with the Chargers. And he's also the dad of one of the nation's most highly touted recruits. And he's only going to be a junior. So Alex Molden may stop in studio, hang out with us for a little bit in hour number 2. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
If you've been arrested for DUI, you need a team of attorneys into whom you can place your trust. Call Reynolds Defense Firm today online at reynoldsdefensefirm.com. First on the Fan, a full night of NBA playoffs on this Tuesday. The Pacers 8.5-point home favorites to eliminate the Bucks. They are without Damian Lillard after tearing his Achilles. That's a 3 o'clock tip on NBA TV. Then at 4 o'clock, then at MSG, 4:30 on TNT and Max. The Knicks looking to put away the Pistons. They are 5.5-point favorites. At 5:30 back on NBA TV from Boston, the Celtics 11.5-point favorites. They can put away the Magic. And the nightcap, 7 o'clock on TNT and Max. The series tied at 2 games apiece. The Clippers 1.5-point favorites at the Nuggets. ESPN Shams Charani reporting the Kings and interim head coach Doug Christie finalizing a multi-year deal to give him the job full-time. He took over in December after the firing of Mike Brown. The Mariners 12-4 over their last 16 games. They now sit atop the American League West. A quick 2-game set with the Angels starting tonight. Bryce Miller on the bump for Seattle. Jack Kahanowitz for Los Angeles. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. And the 49ers and tight end George Kittle have agreed to a 4-year extension, reportedly worth $76.4 million with $40 million guaranteed. The deal keeps him in San Fran through the 2029 season. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
It's back. The 11th annual Fan Golf Classic at Langdon Farms Golf Club happens Tuesday, June 24th. Presented by your local Toyota dealers. Reserve your foursome now at 1080thefan.com. Danny and Dusty.
All right, my rock smashes your scissors. Oh, no, not these scissors, pal. This is a special titanium steel alloy developed by NASA for the space program. These scissors that smash your rock to smithereens. No, not this rack. This rack happens to be kryptonite.
With the latest on the Blazers, Ducks, Beavers, and the hottest topics in sports.
Hey, what's happening, Norm?
Well, it's a dog-eat-dog world, Sammy, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
No!
The Fan.
Hour number 2 here on Danny and Dusty on a, good God, Tuesday afternoon. Because, again, I can never remember what day of the week it is. People think it's a bit. I don't. I don't remember what day of the week it is most days. That's just how it goes. Whether you're listening on 1080 AM, watching along on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan, or twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for being a part of our show and hanging out with us wherever you are. Dusty is trying to track down, I think, Alex Molden, who's here in the building right now. In the meantime, just some news and notes from or thoughts from you guys on the text line. And we talked about the potential for a Giannis deal. And, there's Dusty. We got Alex? No, okay.
Sorry, I got caught in the hallway.
Yeah,
I got caught in the hallway with the sales guys talking running shoes. I'm not equipped to have that conversation. I'm learning that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're talking the big things on running shoes.
Oh, we talking hood to coast?
No. No, I'm not talking hood to coast. No, we got Dave in the sales office.
Oh, yeah.
Sales Dave.
Yeah.
He is running a race where it's basically 12 hours and you run so you're not running for time. You're running for distance, where they have like a 1.5 mile loop of this race. And basically you just run however much you can in that time. And I was like, that sounds miserable.
I want no part of that.
Yeah, but he is also an ultra. He wants to do an ultra marathon,
which is a double, right? So it's
50K,
54 miles.
Yeah,
52 miles.
It's a very long way, and he's like, I want to see if I can do it. And I was like, I don't
have any issue or any desire to go anywhere near that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about this runner's high, but I don't know what that means. Like I have run long distances before in my life. I don't get what the idea of the runner's high is. Like people are like, oh yeah, you don't feel great after running. I'm like, no, I never feel that way.
I've had it a couple times, but it's not something that's just like there all the time.
No, they're like, well, how about when you get a couple miles into a run? I'm like, no. I've
never been a distance guy as it pertains to running. Never,
No.
Ever.
I mean, look, I quit running track in college because I hated running. And that's just kind of the way that I've been wired. It's like I just don't like running that long.
What's the furthest you've ever done?
In a
ever
run?
Yeah. I've done a half.
I've no. I think 10 miles, probably the most I've ever run.
I did a half when I was in the Air Force. That's the most I've ever done, and I hated life.
I just don't. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, we had this brutal workout in college where you have to run like 3 miles, and you'd have to do it like you would run 3 miles in one direction, and they'd have like a truck set up, and you hop in the truck if you make it in time. If not, they're gone, and they'd leave in like 18 minutes. I'm like, I'm not built for that.
So you have to have
6-minute miles,
6 or under. Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that. So I never made it.
Yeah.
Motivated to get there because I didn't want to walk back.
At my best, I could have run that, but I would have been very angry about it.
Yeah. Hey, this is a good text, though. I do feel that way after a good workout in the gym, though. Yes, the endorphin release and like the idea of a runner's high. I know what that feels like after a good workout. I just never feel it running.
No,
never have I ever.
I feel a million times better after I lift, as opposed to like I'm talking like lifting to like the most insane levels, like where you've got nothing left, as opposed to running, where you've got nothing left. I'll lift over run every single time.
Like this, I don't like to run unless it's necessary. My runner's high is usually the fear of getting caught from behind. Yes. Running, that is my motivator.
Running enough so that if you did have to run, you don't tear a hamstring. That's where I'm at in life now.
Yeah. And then the idea of like when I have my wife and my friends, they run, they're like, it's good to kind of just decompress and you get away from all your thoughts. I'm like, I'm my worst enemy on runs. Like I just sit there and
angry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I raced my nephew probably over like 35, 40 yards. Was it Easter?
Calling that a run? Going for a run?
Oh, no. Just a quick little race.
Yeah.
He's like, Uncle D, I want to race. And I was like, this is a bad idea, but all right, let me humble the little kid real quick. And it wasn't a problem beating him. But when I was running, it was in my sister's house in the backyard. One thing I didn't consider, my big butt and stopping.
Yeah, absolutely.
At full speed. Thankfully, she's got like 6 feet of pea gravel between the end of the grass and the fence. And I could hear my sister go, "Oh!" And thankfully, I was able to slam the brakes like a freaking plane in the pea gravel and slow down.
Well, that's runner's highs. All right, on to bigger and better things. We have got Alex Molden.
Hey, there we go.
He is going to stop by. He's got a new book that has just been released today. He's a great dude. If you've never heard Alex Molden talk before, he's a former Duck. First-round draft pick by the New Orleans Saints. He's got a son in the NFL, and he's a state champion, too. Danny Dusty on the Fan. We are very happy to have him with us. Sitting in studio with us right now is a former Duck, first-round draft pick, and longtime NFL veteran. Now he's just winning state championships at Westland High School, along with Anthony Newman. Alex Molden joining us. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, you just released your second book, Breaking on the Ball of Life. I can't think of a better title for a book written by a defensive back than Breaking on the Ball of Life, man.
Let's go.
What got you into writing books now as this next chapter of your life?
Man, I never in a million years thought I would write a book, let alone two. But when you have like people who challenge you, right? When you have, so I have a coach. His name is Eldridge Broussard. And he challenged me to be, number one, to be a better person, right? And then also, like, he helps me with, my brand and what I wanted to create. And so he challenged me to write a book. And so I did that the first time, and that was a couple of years ago. And he said, "Hey, it's about time again." And I was like, "Oh, you know how hard that was." But I ended up, just kind of sitting down and like, man, just mapping out like the decisions that helped me have success on the football field, right? And those same principles can apply in life. Like for me to make, interceptions or whatnot, it wasn't just I was out there guessing. Like I had to take in information. I had to process that information at a fairly high rate and then produce an outcome. Well, if you can do those things when you have, let's say, opportunities, right? And a lot of us, we get attached to the feeling of the opportunity. It can be good, bad, whatever, but you get attached to this feeling, and it might be a good feeling. That doesn't necessarily mean that's a great idea for what you want to build in the future. So I teach, and I talked about in the book, alignment, assignment, and then adjustment. Like, is this aligned to who you are, to your character, or the brand that you're trying to build, right? With this decision, and then your assignment, like who you are, like understanding, like, man, where do you, what is your purpose, right? And or where do you want your purpose to be? And then the different adjustments that you might need to make in terms of like relationships that you have. So it's just these things that help me out to do something a very small percentage of humans, get to do is play professional sports, and to do it for, 8 years, which I didn't know this, but only 3% of those guys who got drafted the other day, only 3% play 8 or more years.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not because of my looks, right? I thought it would, but it's not because of my look. It's not, the speed, the size, definitely not my size, but it was, I was able to make pretty damn good decisions.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can, we all have that capacity to be able to do that and make decisions to, what you want to do with your life.
You bring up 2 points that something I talk to a lot of guys about just across sports, particularly in basketball, but I would imagine it's probably the same in football because of so much time and dedication, the assignment and the adjustment. How were you able to conquer that? Because you had a career, like you said, for 8 years, that becomes almost synonymous with who you are. How were you able to process that? Because that seems to be one of the hardest things for professional athletes who have, like you said, more than, because the average NFL career is 3.5 years.
Yep.
So you more than double that. So the investment in that and the assignment of that, how do you go from that to kind of where you are now? Like I imagine you probably outlined some of that in the book, but that process, because it becomes synonymous, like you said, with who you are. How are you able to step back and see that in the moment? Because it seems like that is one of the strongest barriers for prior athletes to conquer.
Yeah. What happens when you're doing something like at a high level and you have to be dedicated to it, you have to, like what they say, eat, sleep, drink, whatever, right? You have to be careful with that because it can become your identity. Especially you have relationships that are like, in your household that they're pouring in that too, right? And it starts to become like who you are. And when you step away from it, whether you want to or not, you're lost, And I was one of those, I was one of those guys who, when I stepped away from the game, and I was like, oh man, I really am. I don't know who I am. What's my purpose? What do I like? What I don't like? And for me, it came in the form of a job interview. I was not even a whole year removed from the game, and I was getting bored just playing golf and working out whenever I wanted to, if you can believe that. I was like, man, I got bored.
It sounds great. It sounds great, but then you do it.
And you do it, and it's like, man, dropping off the kids, playing golf, working out. I said, man, there's got to be more than this. And I ended up going on a job interview at a nonprofit, and it was an entry level position. And I did all my homework. I went in there, and man, I was killing it. The interview, killing it, because I did all the things that helped me on the field. I applied it to this until she started asking me questions about me, and everything out of my mouth had something to do with football. And she finally stopped the interview. She said, Alex, you're not going to get this job. And she said, let me give you some advice. You need to find out exactly who you are before you go on any more job interviews. And so she got up, walked out, walked me to the front door, told me good luck. And that's when I went in my car and I wept. I cried. Mm-hmm. And that was painful. But I understand, like, man, with pain, if you can channel it, it can become your greatest asset. And so that low point, man, helped me start like figuring out about leadership.
Yeah.
Which is influence. Well, the number one person I have to influence is me. Mm-hmm. And so I need to find out what those influencers are. Like, why do I make the decisions I make? Why do I have, these relationships with people who don't really align with who I'm about? So once I started finding out more about me, and then start asking myself pretty tough questions, but then answering them, then everything started to kind of clear up, and I became just as confident, if not more, as I was on the football field, and became confident in the decisions I was making and the relationships that I was building.
Isn't that amazing, though, that you took, a piece of advice that, hey, you need to get outside of that football orbit, but you used what you'd learned in that orbit to grow and find yourself and who you are.
But let me tell you something. I was in my feelings
for
a long time. It would be cool if I was tell that story and I was like, in the next day, everything changed. Man, it took years, right? It took years for me to like really start to, ask those questions and answering them, and start to really figure out, like, man, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
And so I've always wanted to help people. And at first it was like, man, I wanted to help athletes become better athletes. So I started training.
Yeah.
And that took off. It went great. But then I started to get into leadership, and, it started at home first.
Alex Molden is our guest. He was a former Oregon Duck, 11th overall pick. You were talking about these guys that had gotten their name called over the weekend. It's the biggest moment in their life. And one of your sons, Elijah, just re-signed with the Los Angeles Chargers. Yesterday is when the news broke of that. I imagine that a lot of what you were doing is you were going through what you were just describing to us was, at the formative years that Elijah is growing up, and all of your kids. And how did you take kind of those things when you see your child is a gifted athlete, and you've got several gifted athletes with children, but in translating that and just kind of keeping that focus on who they are as people, not just athletes, that everybody gets wrapped up in when you're going through sports.
Yeah, man. The biggest one is, like, my wife and I, we're more concerned about the character of our kids, and we want them to score all type of touchdowns and 3-pointers and do all that good stuff. But when somebody comes to me and I don't ask them, and they come to me and they tell me something that my son or daughters have done, they was thinking of somebody else, they was helping somebody else, I'll do backflips. Right? Me and my wife, we would do backflips. We would go above and beyond to celebrate that above what you do in your sport. Because in sports, there's a shelf life, right? I can't go out there at 51 and try to backpedal and flip my hips and turn and cover somebody, right? those doors close, but who you are, that lasts forever. So we want our kids to, number one, be good people, and number two is like, man, create relationships, with those within our family, but then also, man, to help other people.
How hard is that to navigate in today's world with youth sports?
Man, it's tough because parents nowadays, and because I'm in the stands,
Mm-hmm.
I hear to have the conversations, and because we have 8 kids, people think that we have a lot of the answers, which we don't. But it's like, but what I hear is like, man, people think that they're missing out by having their son or daughters in this one sport, and they're doing it year round. And when you do that, it's dangerous because that's how, your identity gets formed. All right. And outside of like the injuries that can happen with that too, but it's like, man, there's more to it than just being a good athlete and good in your sport. It's like use that sport as a vehicle and understand like everything is connected. The little things that you do at home, they have the potential to doing and helping you out in your sport. The same thing though on the other side of it. You keep leaving crumbs out and you expect mom or dad to clean it up. That stuff, if it's not checked, man, when later on down the road, that can hurt you. You think somebody else is going to do it.
Especially with 8 kids.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of crumbs.
Dude, think about this, man. You the crumbs, or our biggest thing is shoes.
Oh.
You leave your shoes out, and then so think even 8 people leaving their shoes out, right? Man, you be tripping all day.
Yeah. But it becomes bigger things in your life.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Absolutely.
that's one thing that I appreciate. When you win titles, especially at the high school level, all of a sudden your program becomes like the big bad villain. But one thing that I love about what you guys have going on at West Lynn is that you guys have got Coach Eagle, you, Coach Newman, and several others that it is about that character building just as much as it is about winning the football games. Like everybody's like, well, why are all these kids, popping up at West Lynn? It's like, well, I have a pretty good reason, and it's because it's a lot more than just winning the football games is why that happens.
Man, it's more than just the W's. And we use that, I think, for myself. I can speak for myself, and I've seen Coach Eagle, and the reason why I'm still coaching is because of him and Coach Newman, because the people that they are. They want to make our athletes better people. And so I was like, I'm all in. And they don't just say it, is they match it with their words or with their actions and how to respond to different things. So it's about making better people. Better people in the community, and the wins and all that stuff. That's I don't know. That's shrapnel.
It's a
that's
byproduct
extra.
of
Yeah,
it.
it's a byproduct. But what's really cool is when we get text messages from players who've 5 years down the who hasn't played 5, 6, 7 years, and they ask us for a recommendation for jobs or to come to their wedding. I mean, that's come on, man.
It is one of the cooler things is, and we talk about this with Anthony all the time, is that Coach Newman, he's getting the hugs from all of his former players that are playing on the field, but it's the reaction when there's a former player that's in the stands that yells back at him, and he goes up, and it's the same reaction because those guys' playing days are done. They're up in the stands, but that's why you love sports, and that's why you want to give back and still coach. I mean,
absolutely.
It is the best part of it all.
Yeah.
You were down in Eugene on Saturday.
Yeah.
And for the spring game with your son Josiah, who is another highly touted recruit out of the Molden family. It was amazing to see. And you played in the spring games in the 90s where it was just another practice, but you guys got to hit each other. 40,000 people plus. It was incredible down there.
That was the amount of hype that I would have had, or that I would have loved to play a spring game in front of 40,000. Are you kidding me? There was maybe 3,000, 5,000 back in the day. It was we can hear people, we can hear conversations put like that. But that was really cool, and for him to experience that and to see what University of Oregon is doing with under Coach Lanning and where they're going. It's like I want to get them down there as much as I can. I don't want anybody to tell him this though, because I want him to make his own decision. I'm just trying to like lead it, and it's a great decision if you choose to go here. It's your decision. So I just try to, what'd you say, lead a horse to
water. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to be very smooth about it.
It's a big pond down there.
Yeah. Not like back in the day. Yeah.
The book is Breaking on the Ball of Life. It is your second book. It was just released yesterday, so congratulations on book number 2 hitting the bookstores, and it's on. I saw it on Amazon, so you can pick it up wherever you want to get it. It's awesome, valuable tools for life in what you've learned from the field.
Absolutely. And it's just like, man, the different experiences that we have in our different worlds. It's like, man, if you can extract like the good, the bad, hey, look out for this. And be able to give like some type of framework for people, why not do it?
We need to get you in during football season. We can actually talk about the Ducks. We can talk about Elijah and the Chargers this year.
Big year coming up for them. And I'm very excited.
He's got a Duck that they just drafted, and Jamari Caldwell too, right in the middle.
So there you have it. You got to have more. You got to have more Ducks than dogs in any NFL team. If you can do that, I think great things can happen.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it. And good luck with the new book. Breaking on the Ball of Life is Alex Molden's new book. And look, I feel like I learned something just sitting here listening to you on the growth and kind of using that mindset. But mostly it made me feel a lot better. I have 2 kids that you don't have all the answers even with 8, and you've been through it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Every parent has that. I don't know how to tackle this one.
Always game planning.
We try.
The biggest, you got to stay a united unit between you and mama, right? You and your wife, you got to, the connected unit.
That's why the kids
stay together.
When I was younger, man, divide and conquer.
See,
I knew what I was doing.
See, agent of chaos over there. That's all. That's where he thrives. That's where he thrives. Nah.
All right, coming up next, we're going to dive into our worst day on the web, and it's just things happen. But first, here's the Big Kuna with Sports Center update.
Hamburgers, the cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, a full night of NBA playoffs on this Tuesday. The Pacers are 8-point home favorites to eliminate the Bucks, who are without Damian Lillard. That's a 3 o'clock tip on NBA TV. Then at MSG, 4:30 on Max and TNT. The Knicks looking to put away the Pistons and are 5.5-point favorites to do so. Then at 5:30 back on NBA TV from Boston, the Celtics 11.5-point favorites. They can put away the Magic. And the nightcap, 7 o'clock on TNT and Max. The series tied at 2 games apiece. The Clippers are 1.5-point favorites at the Nuggets. Don't look now, but the Mariners 12-4 over their last 16 games. They sit atop the AL West. A quick 2-game set with the Angels starts tonight. Bryce Miller on the bump for Seattle. Jack Kahanowitz for Los Angeles. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. And the 49ers and tight end George Kittle have agreed to a 4-year extension, reportedly worth $76.4 million with $40 million guaranteed. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Russ from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new black 1080 The Fan hoodie, as well as classic long and short sleeve tees. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com. It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
That sucks.
All right. When these go viral, it's always an interesting discussion. It was the what was it last year? The 4 animals in a cage. Was it the snake, the bear?
Yeah, it was
the lion,
bear, snake,
gorilla.
No, gorilla was not in it. Well, he may have been in that.
I feel like silverback was in there.
Yeah, because the big one was, all right, who's coming out? Because it was, snake, lion, bear, gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
And it came down to the grizzly and the gorilla for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I still contend grizzly.
Yeah,
gorilla is very, very strong.
It is, but I was the default position is opposable thumbs.
Yeah, but claws and teeth.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Claws and teeth.
Silverback got those though too.
They got the teeth.
They got the teeth. But
this one is, I can't figure out which side I am on this.
And if you're wondering what that is, it's 100. Could 100 people take down a silverback gorilla?
Could 100 and now here's the 100 people is a lot of people against one gorilla. But the idea that people can sit there and definitively say, oh, 100 guys going to take out a gorilla, I think you're wrong. Because I think it's going to take highly trained and skilled fighters to take out one silverback gorilla.
And you're going to have to do it. Here's the thing. Is like you talk about 100. Well, you just surround him. Well, only, at most 10, 12 people can get to it?
Yeah. And that's where the problem...
And who's going to be the one that gets to it and is able to hold on so everybody else can get to it?
Yes. Now, did you know... Now, I don't know the kg 2 pounds. Did you know... Oh, my gosh.
Gorilla weighs like, what, 450 pounds?
Yeah, right around there. Yeah. But somebody did, all of the math on this. And basically, here's how it breaks down. So a gorilla can lift up to 1,700 pounds, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Can run 25 miles an hour,
mm-hmm.
has a bite force of 1,300 PSI.
Which is double that of a lion.
And so with a swing of an arm,
mm-hmm.
when you take those things into consideration, the sheer force, strength, and speed of
mm-hmm.
the gorilla, they could kill a human with one punch.
Mm-hmm.
They could crush your bones with one bite,
mm-hmm.
and they can run 25 miles an hour,
which is faster than basically everyone not named Usain Bolt.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're speeding in the school zone right there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going. You don't want to go over that in a school zone. That's how big, strong, and fast these animals are. Also, their bone structure, he broke down bone structure,
mm-hmm.
bone density, and muscle structure. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Their skulls are thick, so there's no way that in a fist fight, and that's the parameters
mm-hmm.
of this, right? No weapons. This is a fist fight. We are it's 300 and you got the sand pit, right?
Mm-hmm.
No rocks are around, so you can't whack it over the head. We're just going fist fight, 100 dudes.
Mm-hmm.
A human is not going to knock out because of their skull. You're not going to knock out a gorilla. So you got to choke this gorilla out.
Mm-hmm.
And then with how strong they are, you have to think that you have to have at least 4 humans on each limb
mm-hmm.
holding on while somebody tries to choke this thing out, which, by the way, if one guy gets his arm bit as he's trying to choke this thing out, that bone is broken. You have to have another bro come in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's going to be a substantial loss of life here.
100%.
You have to wear this thing down. You got to go in waves.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the first couple dudes, you're dead.
Yeah, you're gonna die.
You're if you're not dead, you're
not getting back in the fight.
Yeah, no, you are gonna have to tap out.
You're the red uniform in Star Trek.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
You're done. That's just you're gonna get guys loss of limb,
human
loss of
shield.
life.
You are a human shield at that point.
And you're hoping probably when you get through the first 40 that you can kind of wear it down, and if you can just kind of pile on top of it.
Mm.
Once you can do that, and hell, one guy's not going to knock it out, but you get enough people swinging, punching, doing enough damage that you wear it down,
soften them up in the belly.
Yeah.
Just like, and that's the other thing too, is that you got to have so you're talking about 16 of your 100
on limbs
need to have a coordinated attack to get to the limbs, right? Because you have to think of this right out the get-go, you're losing 10.
Yeah.
You're losing 10
bare minimum.
Yeah. And I'm being nice to the humans. You're going to lose 10. Okay, so you're at 90. 16 of those 90 are going to be on the limbs trying to keep the arm straight.
And you're going to lose some through that process. Because here's the thing. As much as you talk about, well, you just kind of circle around it, well, I'm like, remember, this thing can move. And not only can it run, it can jump.
So at that point, before anybody, and we're getting this on the fan text line, 503-864-6326, you got to get somebody to go for the eyes.
Oh, you got to go for the soft spots.
Like, you're going for the eyes, and then somebody's got to, like, you have to have waves of dude just coming up and softening, punching him in the belly.
Nuts.
Right? Yeah, we're not fighting fair.
Oh, no. God,
you
no.
cannot fight fair in this, because this is the only way the humans win.
The way you need to do this is you need to have 100 Nate Diaz's.
Yeah.
You need to have 100
Bam,
psychopaths.
bam, bam, bam. And then once you get him softened up a little bit, that's when you got to come in over the top. That's the only way that this happens. But in all of this, I still think you're losing
half.
Yeah.
Half.
And look, as this text points out, you're probably going to lose a large swath of the people once that gorilla rips the first person in half. They're just like, nope, deuces, I'm out.
And starts swinging it around like a weapon.
Yeah. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Because here's the thing. It can just rip limbs off.
Yeah.
It can just rip. There was what's
terrifying.
Is it the howler monkey that people like tried to make a pet? Have you seen the photos of those people?
No, I know chimpanzees will do that.
That's what it was.
Chimpanzees
ripped whole faces off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And chimps are nowhere near a silverback gorilla.
No.
It's tearing your head off, tearing your arm off, tearing your leg off. Like, it's just going to, I mean, that's the thing is like, that's why you need psychopaths.
And
they're going to see some nasty, gruesome stuff.
Yeah.
And got to keep going.
But get in there with the Expendables.
Here's the thing. It is super easy to say, 4 guys on each limb. How do you get them there, though? Like, that is the thing, is that
because it's going to swing.
Yeah, one guy can't grab the arm and then another guy grab the arm and be like, we're good. No, like, all 4 have to grab at the same time. So that's why I'm saying, like, I think I'm taking the gorilla in this.
You have to get lucky and get this thing on the ground and pile on.
Yeah.
Because even then, you're going to struggle. Basically, you're just hoping you can asphyxiate this thing enough.
That's
just wear it down. Because
rope-a-dope it.
I mean,
you just let him take out the first 80,
and then
the
pile on.
The last 20 standing are the ones that do it. You just let him swing himself out. But that's the other thing. I don't know if they get tired. I've never seen this. I don't know. I'm assuming probably not.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd trust 100 against a lion. No, I don't think. I would trust 100 against a lion before I would a gorilla, let alone the grizzly's the other one. Like, you're not getting that.
No, not without a weapon.
Although the video of is the black bear that's scratching his back on the post and the rope comes back and hits him in the nuts. You've seen that video, right?
Yes.
I think it's a black bear. I don't think it's a grizzly, if I remember right.
I think it's a black bear,
Yeah,
too.
because I don't remember it being a towering monstrosity. I remember it being big, but not the biggest damn thing I've ever seen.
The grizzly's still going to outrun you, though, too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, like, you have to go for the nuts.
No, yeah. I mean,
no matter what, grizzly, gorilla, doesn't matter. You got to speed bag that thing.
Yeah. Well, and again, good luck getting in there.
The first guy that walks up and punches it, and then it just rips him in half. That's going to be the one where, as this text says, you got to take fear and emotion out of it for the sake of this argument. You can't have any emotions heading into this. You can't assume that anybody has fear. But the second that happens, I don't know how anybody could just be like, yep, I'm next. I'm going into that. I don't even know where these things start on the internet either. But the amount...
Very stupid questions.
Will Darkins.
The amount of thought that has gone into this, like just looking at some of like the research that people have done. I mean, if the gorilla just because they have reach too, right? There's outside of
They're big.
intellect, there are very few advantages that humans would have on them. So just imagine this. Gorilla goes helicopter, right? You want to converge on him. He just starts spinning with this big old fists of fury out there, and he's just spinning around. I don't know how you get to him. How you going to get to him?
Well, because we've seen him do it too, from that one viral video of the gorilla dancing in the kiddie pool set to the tune of Flashdance.
I don't know that. I want to see it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've not seen that. Yeah,
I showed
send
Dusty
that one
earlier
to
the
me.
video of the gorilla at the zoo where the kids are tapping on the glass and the gorilla just meanders over and not even like violently, but just kind of like get away from my glass, hits the glass and damn near shatters it. And that glass, it ain't thin.
It's not something I want to be a part of.
No.
Not one bit.
No.
All right.
Oof.
What do you say? Final verdict.
No.
Man or
gorilla?
Gorilla? Rust? Man or gorilla?
Oh, it's the gorilla.
Okay.
Have you ever seen what a silverback gorilla's teeth look like? They're as long as our fingers,
Yeah,
and they're thicker than your thumbs.
I'm going
like,
gorilla.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. Now, what if it's 100 Ditkas?
Ditkas?
Mike Ditka.
Look, if you're telling me that I have 100 Brian Shaws,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Well, so what if it's 100 Ditkas, but versus a silverback Ditka?
Oh, a silverback named Ditka.
Yeah. For those who are not aware, Brian Shaw is the world's strongest man. He does things that you can't imagine. He's 6'8", 440 pounds.
Oh, now here's one. What if you in mom mode protecting its baby? So what if you go? You put 100 moms in there with their children?
There's a lot of dead babies.
Whoa, children are safe. They're on the edges, but mom strength is real.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I've seen it. I've seen my wife run faster than I did not know was humanly possible, and mom mode is real.
I
lift cars off of kids.
They're lifting a car here.
Oh, here's a good one. I'd argue a gorilla is more intelligent than any human willing to try this. I would tend to agree.
Again, that's why I said you got to have like 100 Diaz's.
Yeah. Take all the on-air 1080 the personalities against the gorilla. Who's the last one to be taken out? See, this is where you have to go gorilla mentality. He's going after Sook first. They'll go after the biggest one first.
Yeah.
So, Dirt.
Dirt's the least
He's
threat.
be like, whoa, man.
He's
Whoa.
the least threat.
Easy. Whoa.
Sprague's still moving.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the morning show's got a good chance. Rust. Rust. He's going to be like, he's going to look at Russ, and Russ is just going to take his shirt off. He's going to be like,
one of us.
I got silverback right there.
Oh, by the way, I have to correct myself. It wasn't set to the Flashdance. It was set to Maniac. So I'm tweeting it out right now.
Even
correct.
A link to the YouTube.
Correction noted.
Yes.
Even better.
Correction noted.
No,
I don't think
love
this
it.
show has pivoted from such a thoughtful segment to something like this as quick as we have.
No.
From Alex Molden, which was a great,
Yeah.
great conversation,
Inspiring,
very
motivating, thoughtful.
Yeah, and then it just ended up coming to.
What? Could 100 dudes fight a silverback?
Hey, that pendulum's always got to swing back the other direction,
Boy,
right?
you're not wrong.
That's how we balance things here.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah,
All right.
Oh, that's our worst day of the web today. Coming up next, the NBA early entrance has been announced, and there's been a pretty shocking change as far as how things are going in the NBA and the NBA draft. We'll talk about that next year on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Oh, some news coming out of the NBA with the NBA lottery less than 2 weeks away.
I'll tell you what, I saw that video Russ just tweeted out at 1080 The Fan. There ain't no way any humans are getting close to that gorilla if he spins like that.
Look.
No.
There was a movie of I can't remember what it was, where the kid's like, I'll just spin around like this with my fists out, and it's like that's all I could think of, but I can't remember the movie. I'll have to deep dive that one.
All right, draft lottery. Sorry, this is
no.
I'll talk about silverback gorillas all day long.
No, I'm all about it. But no, the NBA draft lottery, May 12th. The deadline for the early entrance was just the other day. And so what the NBA draft early entrance means is the guys that put in for that can still withdraw from the draft and maintain their eligibility. The interesting thing about it is that the number has fallen off a cliff precipitously. Now, there's a couple different things that are important about this. Number one, NIL era and guys returning to college basketball and staying in college longer. That is a real implication. The other part of this is, though, the COVID years are expiring.
Yep.
Now, we may run into a point here sometime in the very near future where eligibility doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very real thing that's probably coming down the pipe.
Well, and on the NIL front, there's quite literally hundreds of college basketball players making over $1 million.
Look,
hundreds.
Somebody not on this list that I found very surprising. UConn's Alex Caravan, who was 2 years ago, was a guy who was a fringe first-round pick. I heard he got $3 million to go back to UConn last year. Significantly more than the $800,000 he would have made as a second-round pick or a guy who gets a two-way contract that's not guaranteed. Today, he announced that he is returning to UConn again because I've seen him in mocks and I've talked to people around the league. He was basically in the exact same position because he didn't have as great a year as probably people expected him to. He probably also got another $3 million to go back to UConn.
Yep.
Which is significantly more, again, than you're going to make as a second-round prospect.
Well, if you just think of it in these, well, that's an outdated one. Never mind. The rookie slotting for each pick, it goes down in the NBA.
Yes.
Year by year by year.
13 or 14 for the number one overall pick this year.
13, $14 million.
Yeah, I got to remember what it was. I have to look at it and see what it slots at because it's a percentage deal. It goes up every year.
Well, for last year's, it was $10.5 million influx of money. This
the
past
new
year
TV deal, it's going to bump up a
gonna
little
go
bit
up.
more. Yeah.
So 10.5, and then so say you're a fringe lottery guy, right? So you're in that 13 to 22 slot. The 13th pick in last year's draft, $3.9 million. 22, $2.6 million. So when you say Alex Caravan, who is a fringe first round guy, got $3 million to return to UConn last year, if he was at the end of the first round, you're looking at $2.08 million as the 30th overall pick. You can get lottery money by returning to UConn for one more year. That is a huge factor in all this. And then that's not to say, like, some of these guys, you know, we heard the Cooper Flagg number was going to be, was $8 million just from Duke.
Yes.
Just from Duke.
Upwards of 20 when you factor in New Balance and probably Gatorade and all the other ads and national campaigns you're already seeing.
Now, the reason why he's coming back is he still has all of those national ads campaigns. The NBA is going to pay him more than what Duke was going to be able to pay him.
Yes.
No brainer.
And you're starting the clock. So in 2021, the number of early entrants was 363. You have 60 picks in the draft. 60.
That's a lot.
363 early entrants. It is now down to 106. These are guys that are just staying in school now because of the money. Well, not just because, but like a major factor, and it's good for college basketball. College basketball this year was great.
Yeah.
Now, a big part of that is this recruiting class that came in was very good.
This is the fewest early entrants in an NBA draft in a decade.
Yes, it's 2015.
That is huge for the NBA to get players that are actually ready to go to the NBA. And it's even better for college basketball that guys are coming back. But there are some surprises that were on this list of guys that are going into the NBA.
Look, I understand like testing the waters. But then again, that's why you go in as an early entrant so you can pull yourself out. You go through the combine, you go through some workouts, And then there will be a period after I want to say it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the combine, after basically guys have gone through workouts and you've gotten your feedback that you got to.
Nate Biddle might be one of those
Yeah,
guys from
Nate
the
Biddle's
University
on it.
of
Look,
Oregon. Crater High, go Comets.
I've talked to a lot of scouts in the NBA about Nate Biddle. I talked to probably about a dozen of them at the Oregon-Rutgers game, and I'll tell you right now, they came out of that game going, he did himself some work here. Look, Biddle, I don't think is going to get drafted, but I could very, 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 very easily seeing him getting a two-way / camp invite, play with a team in summer league because he's 7 foot tall, he protects the rim, and he shoots threes.
In that, you're 7 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a place in the NBA, whether it is a two-way contract, a
Somebody's
stash in the
going to
G
give
League.
you an opportunity. There's a number that's out there. If you are a legitimate 7-footer, there is an 18% chance just by being a 7 foot tall male that you will make the NBA.
Should have been 7 feet tall.
It's something like 17.8% of 7 foot males in the world make the NBA. You have basically a 1 in 5 chance of playing in the NBA just by virtue of being 7 foot tall.
Those are good numbers.
Pretty damn good. Like if you're talking about like earmarking for something like a physical trait, that's it.
Yeah, being tall.
Gee, thanks, Mom and Dad.
Super helpful. Scarcity of asset. But like that's, again, Biddle's a guy that's on that list. But on the other side of that spectrum is a guy like Yaxel Lundeberg, who has made himself a ton of money. He played at UAB. He is the guy that I am looking at in this draft that is very much Tumani Kamara. And
his name is Yaxel Lundenberg?
Lendeberg. Yes. He is 6'9", can do basically everything. He can dribble, pass, shoot, defend, just an incredibly good player who is a late developer. He is transferred from UAB to Michigan, but he is testing the waters. I know some teams that would like to take a shot on him outside of the lottery, like basically like 16 to 20. But if he goes to Michigan and does what I think he'll do there, he'll be a no doubt lottery pick next year.
He's also the villain in the upcoming Lethal Weapon 5.
Yeah.
With a name like that.
Well, it's also
I don't even know where to start spelling that. Is that Yaxel with a J or is it like
Y.
a Y?
Y.
Of course it is.
Yaxel.
Not the soft J.
Yeah. And then we were talking about it in the break. Another great name.
Wouldn't have gotten that.
Rocco Zakarski,
Mm-hmm.
7'3" big man from Australia.
Great name.
I mean, look,
Rocco Zakarski sounds like a bully in an 80s movie.
Yeah.
Like John Hughes was like, Rocco Zakarski.
Nah, that
3 o'clock high.
They went, that's too much.
Yeah.
They had to back that off.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's like, you take a look at this list. There's a couple of guys I went, okay, Drake Powell from North Carolina is on this list. And I went,
when you said his name earlier and when we were in a break, I was like, wait, the guy from Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But again, this does not mean that they are in the NBA draft yet.
It means you're testing the waters and coming back with eligibility.
And I think that is a great thing that the NBA does
Yes.
and the NCAA allows them to do is go and test those waters.
Get the feedback.
I understand why with the NFL because the turnaround is so quick from the end of the football season to where the draft is held. But I would love to see that for the NFL as well and in college sports. And look, all it's going to take, somebody is going to not get drafted, have their name in, they're going to sue, and they're going to win.
To come back? Yeah.
Like, I know that Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, he floated that idea
in the NFL, yeah,
about Shadur Sanders. Like, when the 4th round wrapped up, he was like, dude, he should just yank his name from the draft right now, go back to Colorado. Actually, I think he said something like he shouldn't go back to Colorado. He should go somewhere else just so he can prove he can play for somebody else besides his dad.
Tennessee.
Which I think would actually probably have helped him. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world.
Honestly, look.
But he would have never done it.
Florio said some bat-ass crazy things.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was that far out of bounds.
No.
Imagine he goes to
he
Tennessee and plays for Heupel in a system that makes sense and in a roundabout way bends the knee, shows he has no problem doing that. Now all of a sudden you're going into that class and like, what if he goes out there and balls out at Tennessee and puts himself in a Heisman competition? Like,
yeah. No, I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world. It would have never happened because Dion obviously would not have let that happen because it would have reflected poorly on him. But I don't. I think there's a lot of smoke to that fire. Of NFL teams had a big concern about Shadur in the fact that he'd never played for anybody but his dad.
Yeah. It's certainly
Ever.
something that reflects. Coming up in hour number 3, you were down at the Oregon Spring game.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that next here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
I'm Chelsea Messenger, helping you be
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, don't look now. The Mariners 12-4 over their last 16 games. They sit atop the American League West. And a quick 2-game set with the Angels starting tonight. Bryce Miller starting for Seattle. Jack Kahanowitz for Los Angeles. That's a 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. Got a full night of NBA playoffs on this Tuesday. The Pacers 8-point home favorites to eliminate the Bucks, who are now without Damian Lillard due to a torn Achilles. That's a 3 o'clock tip on NBA TV. Then at MSG, 4:30 on TNT and Max, the Knicks looking to put away the Pistons. They are 5.5-point favorites to do so. At 5:30, back on NBA TV from Boston, the Celtics 11.5-point favorites. They can put away the Magic. And on the nightcap, 7 o'clock on TNT and Max. The series tied at 2 each. The Clippers 1.5-point favorites at the Nuggets. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Kings and interim head coach Doug Christie finalizing a multi-year deal to give him the job full-time. Christie took over in December after the firing of Mike Brown. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. Danny and Dusty.
My Uncle Gus is the uncle that likes to work the grill. As soon as he walk in the house, he's like, get away from that grill. You don't know how to start no fire.
With the latest on the Blazers, Ducks, Beavers, and the hottest topics in sports.
We're going to eat a hamburger, okay? Here we go. Chatty, throw the mat. Now that's a fire.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
I'm not cooking a brontosaurus burger.
The Fan.
Hour 3 here on Danny and Dusty on a Tuesday afternoon. Whether listening on 1080 AM, watching along on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan or twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan. We appreciate you. We love you. And we love you so much that we do this hopefully every year.
Yeah.
Your local Toyota dealers present the 11th annual Fan Golf Classic at Langdon Farms Golf Club on Tuesday, June 24th.
Let's go.
It's back, ladies and gentlemen. Brought to you by Henderson & Daughter Windows and Doors and by Philbrook Law Accident and Injury Lawyers. Remember, morning group, afternoon group.
Yes.
You want to sign up for the group that you want to be in now because they will fill up. They always fill up. And just a heads up, the morning one fills up faster.
Yes, it does.
Always the case. Because you want to get out there, have your good day, and then roll over to the Red Shed and have some tasty barbecue from Matt's Barbecue.
Right. You're dang right. Matt's Barbecue is going to be there feeding us after both rounds. We are going to have plenty to discuss in the coming weeks of
all of the rollouts,
everything that is going to be happening on the course, around the event. It's going to be a great time. It always is a great time. Get your foursome signed up now because, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. You do not want to be the foursome that is like, well, we really wanted to do this. We can't help you.
Yeah.
Once they sell out, they sell out. They're going fast, so go to 1080thefan.com.
Because it always happens.
Oh,
always.
Every year.
If you're listening like, well, I don't... Just look, don't complain.
Do it.
Don't complain. Just do it. And if you want to do it, go to 1080thefan.com, click on the Fan Golf Classic logo, and sign up your foursome.
Let's do it.
And if you're worried about cash, just make it like it's Coachella tickets and just finance it.
Wait, people are doing that?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, dude. Coachella, they said the average person was floating something. Was it like $3,000 worth? They were putting it on like the Klarna, Affirm, or a credit card. And I'm just like,
Not.
The clout chasing is gross. Also, you can go to an event where you have to walk 20 miles.
That's going to go, Coachella's going to go the route of South by Southwest.
Oh,
You know that South by Southwest, the attendance is way down now because they priced out all of the people that used to go to it.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing that anyways, but people want to clout chase, so they'll sacrifice their lives so they can go get some Instagram photos from a concert that's not very good.
Are not going to become an influencer.
No.
That's just like a blanket statement.
Yeah.
Like, the people who become the best influencers are not the ones who set out to do it. It's just some fluky reason.
It's a magnetic thing. Like you either have the personality or you have the looks. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You either got it or you don't.
Yeah. I'm so sick of all of that.
Oh, yeah.
All of it. All right.
I'd say there's no amount of BBL you can get, but there is.
Yeah.
There is.
But then you go too far. Some people go too far. Some people go too far.
Well, you didn't go very far. You went down an hour and a half to Eugene.
I did. Yeah. I was down at the spring game on Saturday, and we talked a little bit about it with Molden when he was in here, and Alex was down there with his son, Josiah, who plays at West Lynn. And, you know, we were talking with him before we went on the air. I was like, could you imagine what that would have been like when you were playing? He's like, no, man. Like, he goes, that was crazy. And I got to the stadium at 9:30 in the morning. And when I pulled up, there were already cars lining up all the way back to like Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to get into the tailgate lots. And they didn't open until 10. And 40,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
I mean, there may have been more. It really was. It was just the corners of the stadium that were not there. And it's great that the fans show up for that, but it's also because it is actually a spring game, which is what people are not doing anymore. And it was real football. But I still approach it as what it is, which is a spring game. And people want to make sweeping generalizations or have hot takes about what the actual roster is going to be like. I think that is a fool's game, especially in the spring. Even with the quarterback position, where I thought all of the quarterbacks actually made a play at one point where I was like, oh, okay. Dante Moore had a couple of beautiful deep balls. One was converted. A couple of them weren't. Austin Novosad did the exact same thing. I thought Akili Smith Jr. for his first time coming out on the field, he showed exactly why he was a highly touted prospect. But the reality of it is that people want to look at it and they'll go through the entirety of the game and fail to realize that the offensive lines are mismatched. And there isn't a team in the country that is 10 or 12 deep on the offensive line. And that's what you do when you split your rosters evenly. You have got a mismatch of offensive linemen. I think that the starting five are going to be really good. The depth is going to be there. To what degree, I don't know on the offensive line. But I think what really popped to me was how good that defensive line is going to be. You lose Jordan Birch, Derek Harmon, Jamari Caldwell, and that group did shine. I think the other group that did is the receiving core is stacked. I mean, from DeCorian Moore, who his imprint was felt on the very first possession where he caught a deep ball. And then, Dylan Gresham had a phenomenal game. Jeremiah McClellan, he was a guy that he was a
stood out
4-star prospect. He had a really good spring for Oregon. And then you add in guys like Evan Stewart, who was suited up, did not play in the game. Kyler Casper, who's going to be out there. Justice Lowe, who got significant run in this offense. They are going to be deep at receiver. They're deep at running back, and nobody really popped off the field in that running back room. But they have variety, and they have a lot of counter punches that they can throw at you. I think the biggest thing that was visible was the defensive backs. They changed the way that room looks, and they're long. They are a lot longer than they were last year. A lot of guys over 6 foot, but a lot of guys over 6'2" in that secondary room. And they got 21 defensive backs. I've got guys like Dylan Thieneman, who you want to see kind of, especially when you're replacing a guy like Jeffrey Boss at middle linebacker, or you're replacing an experienced secondary where you had Tyshim Johnson and Kobe Savage as your safeties. Dylan Thieneman coming in, you want to see how quickly those guys are picking it up. Betcher, Devin Jackson, Gavin Nix looked really good at linebacker, but Thieneman at safety was already getting guys coordinated and into place. Those are the types of things that you want to see. I don't sit there and look at a spring game and say, yes, plant your flag in the ground on making sweeping judgments on anything. But I think you can be optimistic about that defensive line, especially that edge rushing room where Blake Purchase, Mateo Uyunglele, Tatum Tuioti, Elijah Rushing, they're 4, 5, 6 deep at edge, and so it's going to kind of be that relentless pressure coming off the edge, and those guys are finally coming into their own. And then the wide receiver room, I was blown away by those guys. They're going to be pretty dang good there.
The national talking point right now is that Lanning's not going to go into the transfer portal to address what the national media is saying about the linebacker core.
No, and I think that coming out of the spring game, Betcher coming back is huge. Devin Jackson got significant run. I liked both Jerry Mixon and Gavin Nix, who Mixon had gotten run last year. Nix is a highly touted linebacker coming out of high school that, I mean, he looks the part. They got a bunch of, that's the crazy part, is they look ready to go out of high school now. And that is wild to think about how large of humans some of these guys are. But one thing that was funny about the game was halftime. I got my questions with Coach Lanning, and one of the first words out of his mouth was, I hope we don't have to punt again. Punting was an issue. And I think every coach, regardless of how the punts go, is probably wants to say, I hope we don't have to punt. But that would have been, if you want to look at, okay, that didn't look good at all. That was the aspect of the game that was brutal. And for Lanning to say that, it was a good chuckle, but it was a joke, but also not great in that first half.
Need to find an Adley Rutschman on campus?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ross James has got a boomer, but and so does Luke Dunn, but they didn't have it on Saturday, and he acknowledged that during our halftime chat. But I don't think that they are going to go into the portal for linebacker. I think that they are comfortable with where they're at as a roster. There are still going to be questions, though, and like, this is the thing. when you lose 10 guys to the NFL draft, you have big
Gotta
shoes to
replace.
fill. When you lose 17 guys ended up signing NFL contracts from your 10 drafted and the 7 undrafted free agents, that Oregon team was really damn talented. But this is what happens, right? This is why recruiting matters. These are why the stars matter. These are why your early portal guys, it matters so much to teams, is because you can get them into spring and then you can have that level of comfort. I wouldn't imagine that they're going to be very active in the portal after, it closed on Friday, because it's a bunch of guys that feel that they weren't going to get the run where they were at. And so that the spring portal is not where your top end teams in college football are going to get a bunch of starters out of.
So, all right, that's our spring report from Mr. Sideline Reporter himself.
Dude, it was a crazy environment, though. Star-studded, too. There was a lot of former NFL
He's
guys.
good. Christian Gonzalez down there.
Christian Gonzalez,
Wasn't
Bucky
Bucky?
Irving was the other guest coach, but Haloti Nada, LeGarrette Blunt, Jeremiah Johnson, Ed Dixon, Alex Molden was down on the sidelines, Chad Cota, Jackson Powers Johnson, Alex Forsyth. Like, there was a lot of the former players ended up coming back and showing face at the spring game. And look, that's the thing. You get 40,000 fans down there. You bring back the guys that have played in the NFL or play in the NFL. You use that as a recruiting weekend.
Absolutely.
And that's the main goal for them, is they had a bunch of highly touted prospects, including Jackson Cantwell, who's the number one prospect in the country right now. He's got a trip to Georgia coming up. Before he was going to commit yesterday, I think. And then he bumped that back because he wants to go to Georgia as well before he ends up making his commitment. But Oregon high on that list.
Give JPJ my love.
He was excited about Ashton Genty. Talked to him about Ashton Genty. He's pumped for it. He's pumped for Chip Kelly, and he's already given Chip a bunch of crap. But he's like, I still think he's a Duck at heart, And then Pete Carroll as his head coach, he's happy with the direction of the Raiders and where they're going.
That's always good to hear. Coming up next, let's actually pivot to the NFL because you weren't here yesterday to talk about a million other things coming out of the NFL draft, but also we have a big tight end transaction to get to. We'll get that next year on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
It's
All right, Dusty. I'll give you a little dealer's choice here. You want to give some NFL draft thoughts, or you want to get to the transaction stuff first?
Well, I can. We'll go NFL draft. We can go NFL draft. Yeah,
What are your takeaways from the NFL draft, non-Shadur Sanders edition?
Ooh, non-Shadur Sanders.
Because we'll get to that in the next break.
One thing that I hate is NFL draft grades after the draft is over, and I just think it's so dumb that they're like, these are the teams that did well. Why? Because they picked the guy that you thought they should pick, or they did horrible. This was a terrible draft for them. Why? Because they picked a guy that you didn't think they should. That's all it comes down to.
We talked about this a bit yesterday, and I don't believe in grades as far as like the draft value thing. I believe in grades if you're looking at process and like how teams went about it. Like teams picking the top in particular with like the Raiders and Patriots. They addressed what they saw as shortcomings directly. And then there's teams like the Ravens and the Eagles who continue to get richer because they've drafted so well over the last couple of years. But the teams in between, you kind of look at it and you go, okay, what were they trying to accomplish? And did they accomplish that goal in what they did?
Yeah. What I dislike so much is, there's a lot of teams that are down on the Lions and what they did in the draft, where first round they went Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle from Ohio State, which some people were like, oh, he could have been there in the second round. Well, then they go Tate Rutledge, the guard out of Georgia, and I have seen draft after draft where the Lions have done a damn good job. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell work really well together. They know what they need. And when your first two picks are going in at interior defensive line to help alleviate some of the pressure on the outside that Aiden Hutchinson's going to get, and you always go offensive line because they've done so well with drafting offensive linemen that guess what? You're paying all of them now and getting young, good talent. I don't understand why people are down on the Lions draft. I agree with you, though. I thought like teams like New England, the Raiders, I thought the Giants had a good draft of like saying, all right, what are our biggest needs that we have? I thought Cleveland did a really good job, and people hate on Cleveland moving off of Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter wasn't going to help them win games. You know who is? Mason Graham is going to help you win games, because if they would have gone Abdul Carter at 2, it would have been like, all right, cool, you got 2 guys on the outside that are going to be menaces. Yeah. Well, guess what? Mason Graham, he helps Myles Garrett more than even Abdul Carter did, and you got a first-round pick next year as well. And also, I don't hate the trade that the Jags made to move up. Now, I think they're going to regret not having a first-round pick next year, but Joey Gladstone, their GM, he said it when he was hired, and he said, I'm not going to flinch at making big moves and taking big swings. He didn't do it. They said, all right, Travis Hunter, we're going to go and we're going to make that move for him. I thought outside of him, they had a good draft as well. So I think you can make any draft a good one or a bad one. But I look at the teams that, and I said this heading into the draft, the teams at the back end of that first round were going to get much better. They did. Yeah. Every single one of them got perfect fits. And it happened in the second round as well. This draft was deep. You're going, oh, great. Everybody made a big deal about Jahad Campbell going to Philly despite the labrum injury. And then Malachi Starks going to Baltimore. Guess what? They also hit in the second round as well. That to me was the biggest sign of this draft, is that those teams that looked at fit and have complete rosters, boy, did they get better. And I think it's going to be really hard to go from bad to good this next year because of how good, with the influx of young talent, the really damn good teams are going to be.
Was there any team that came out of this draft and you kind of went, huh?
Yeah. I mean, Cincinnati was one. Well, outside of
Cincinnati is the one who we talked about yesterday. They universally they got graded basically the lowest by everyone.
Yeah, I don't understand the love affair with Shamar Stewart, but whatever. And then they just went. I think they had two other linebackers that.
Everything in their draft was in the trenches except for their very last pick.
All right.
They picked one skill position guy and a running back.
Taj Brooks, who's a third down back. He's going to be a receiving back for them, not an every down guy. But I didn't.
Otherwise, it was in the front seven on the defense or the offensive line.
That one didn't make much sense to me. But again, that's a team that they hit on Joe Burrow, they hit on Jamar Chase, they hit on Hendrickson. Outside of that, man, they've got
some good spots to hit on.
Holes though. That one did not make a whole heck of a lot of sense. But look, and then Cleveland, it was just confusing that you go Dylan Gabriel in the third round and then Shadur in the fifth round. But whatever, they saw a guy who was plummeting down draft boards and said, we don't have a quarterback right now, so let's just see how many we can get. And their owner probably loved him, so they took Shadur. I don't know. And if Shadur got humbled, it might be the best thing that ever happens to him.
Well, let's dive into that next because there's some more news around that and why, particularly why he fell. We'll get to that next. But first, it's the Big Kahuna with Sports Center Update.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, a full night of NBA playoffs on this Tuesday. The Pacers 8.5-point home favorites to eliminate the Bucks. They're without Damian Lillard after tearing his Achilles. That's a 3 o'clock tip on NBA TV. Then coming from MSG, 4:30 on TNT and Max, the Knicks looking to put away the Pistons. They are 5.5-point favorites in that scenario. And at 5:30 back on NBA TV from Boston, the Celtics 11.5-point favorites. They can put away the Magic. And your nightcap, 7 o'clock on TNT and Max. The series tied at 2 each. The Clippers are 1.5-point favorites at the Nuggets. The Mariners are 12-4 over their last 16 games. They sit atop the American League West. A quick 2-game set with the Angels starts tonight. Bryce Miller starting for Seattle. Jack Kahanowitz for Los Angeles. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. And over from the NFL, 49ers and tight end George Kittle have agreed to a 4-year extension, reportedly worth $76.4 million with $40 million guaranteed. That deal keeps him in the Bay through the 2029 season. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
It's back. The 11th annual Fan Golf Classic at Langdon Farms Golf Club happens Tuesday, June 24th. Presented by your local Toyota dealers. Reserve your foursome now at 1080thefan.com.
All right, we hit on the 30,000 foot view of the NFL draft last segment. But let's be honest, as much as we don't want to continue to rehash and dive into it, but you were out yesterday. The free fall of Shadur Sanders was, look, when we talked about it on Friday, I was like, what's the chances that not only does he go out of the second round, I'm like, I could easily see him once he got past that midpoint in the second round. I'm like, he might be a 4th or 5th round guy. And we kind of went, nah, like, because we just didn't think somebody would do something in that middle of the second, at worst early in the third. But like, there was a real possibility that we said, it's there.
Well, we talked about the fact that 2 quarterback needy teams already filled it with Tennessee and New York in that first round with Cam Ward, who a lot of people are like, nobody's even talking about the number 1 overall pick. I actually think that's the best thing that could ever happen for Cam Ward.
Just go play football.
Now Cam Ward, it does not have any of the pressure that usually comes with being a quarterback drafted number 1 overall. And, you know, a lot of guys, they thrive under that pressure. Well, he can just fly under the radar. There's low expectations in Tennessee in year 1 for him, and he can just go play ball. But after those 2 teams filled their quarterback needs, there aren't a whole lot of teams that need a quarterback. And Derek Harmon going to Pittsburgh, like, that was the first like beacon of, hey, maybe Pittsburgh's just not in this quarterback game. And then New Orleans went Tyler Shuck, and it was like, oh boy, like, this is really going to hurt for him, because then who's going to take him? Cleveland was the last one. And we said Cleveland had 2 of the top 4 picks of the second round. They did right by their organization, though, and they went in that second round with, we need to fill needs before we go to quarterback. Dylan Gabriel going in the third round was a surprise.
We were texting back and forth like, what just happened here?
Yeah, I like when Cleveland came on the board, I was like, it would be hilarious. I texted a buddy of mine and said it would be hilarious if Dylan Gabriel went before Shadur Sanders. And I wasn't talking about to Cleveland. He got drafted because it was right when they flashed Dylan Gabriel having his draft party at his house. And when that popped up, I was like, well, that's interesting, because everybody kind of assumed he'd be a Saturday guy. And he was having his draft party on Friday, which means he probably got some intel that a team liked him. Turns out Cleveland fell in love with Dylan Gabriel at the Reese's Senior Bowl. And they had their coaching staff was coaching the Senior Bowl, and they were around Dylan Gabriel. That was like a shot across the bow to me. Leadership matters at that position, because all of the tangibles that Dylan Gabriel lacks in, he exceeds in the intangibles, which is his leadership. I mean, first time he talked to us, right, when he was at Big Ten Media Day, we asked him how he's doing. He said elite, right? He's just got those. He's a vibes guy in the locker room, gets along with everybody, is all about football. You know, and people kind of made fun of the joke of, you know, Aston Martin for Quinn Ewers at Texas, a Lamborghini for Carson Beck at Georgia. He's driving a minivan because he wanted to be able to go pick up his wide receivers and take them to go and throw. That's who he is, though, right? So, and he's super smart between the ears, football sense-wise. Like, I think Dylan Gabriel is going to have a spot in the NFL for a really long time, not as a high-end starting quarterback, but because of everything else.
Because he doesn't rock the boat.
He doesn't. And his skill set, you know, his tangibles, he's not tall. He isn't.
No.
He isn't. He's not the fastest quarterback.
Doesn't have the
but
biggest
he can
arm.
move. No, but he does all of the little things right. And like everybody's like, he's so short. At Oklahoma, he had a 6'7" left tackle. He still threw the hell out of the ball. There's a lot of things in the NFL that change. Having tall offensive linemen isn't really one that is a big bother. But I don't think he's going to be a high-level starter in the NFL. I think he's going to be a guy who sticks around for a really damn long time. But when they took him in the third round, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
When the fifth round came and Shadur was sitting there, I was like, dude, he may just start telling teams not to draft him if he makes it past Cleveland.
Pick where you want to go, kind of a deal.
Yeah, just say 6th, 7th round. If I'm not getting the guaranteed money, I'm out, and I'll sign as a free agent somewhere. He goes to Cleveland, though. That was a surprise. I was surprised,
especially after taking Dylan Gabriel. And if you haven't seen it yet, the Cleveland Browns draft room.
Oh boy!
When they take Shadur Sanders, you don't see a single emotion on a single person's face.
Yeah, because
it's Jimmy Haslam, the ownership. They said, go get Shadur Sanders.
They were drafting a backup. They were drafting a backup there. You don't start jumping up and down, hooting and hollering for a backup.
No. And even then, they probably didn't want him in the building.
Yeah.
To be fair. And Boomer Esiason has kind of more intel on that in general.
They took him off. And they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. Shadur Sanders just torpedoed himself. His attitude off the field at the combine, his dad didn't help him either. You know, he was on podcast talking about, this is my son. If I can get him to where I want to get him to, I'm going to do that. But, you know, when you listen to this kid talk right prior or at the combine about if you want a new culture in your locker room, I'm the guy to do that. I can turn it around. I mean, he's very high on himself. And I think he was very off-putting to many, many coaches and general managers in the league. And I'm telling you right now, and I know this after talking to 3 different personnel people in the NFL this weekend, they didn't even have him on their board. They took him off. And they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. I don't want this entitled person on our team. And I don't blame him.
Yikes, dog. And that's not collusion. Because collusion is saying, we don't want you here at all in the league. This is...
He's talking on a case-by-case basis. Several teams that he had talked to had said, no, we don't want him.
And it didn't have to do with his dad. It had to do with him.
And look, a lot of it does have to do with his dad,
yes.
though, because his dad was going on podcasts saying, I'm going to Eli Manning this. I'm going to make sure my kid goes to where I want him to go. And when you get the vibe, when you meet with the guy, and the reports coming out of New York was that he came unprepared to his meeting with Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll called him on it, and he got snippy about being unprepared. Because if you don't know, when you show up to your top 30 meetings with teams, they will give you an install when you get there of, all right, this is what it looks like. This is our offense. This is what we do. You know, you need to learn this. Come back tomorrow. And
then you whiteboard it.
And then you whiteboard it. You talk about it. You talk about concepts that were similar to what you ran when you were in college, where you were at, and how it's going to translate in verbiage and all those things. He had no idea. And that's the reports that are coming out. When that happens, there's no bigger red flag than that.
You know what it reminds me of? The DVD. Jamarcus. Jamarcus Russell, when he was a rookie with the Raiders, quarterback's coach gave him film to watch on a DVD. They took it home. They checked with him the next day. What'd you think? Oh, yeah, I loved it. This, and this. The DVD was blank.
Yikes.
Blank. It was a test. It was an interview after the interview. And that's when they knew. It was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. And I think you're looking around at organizations. Look, we've talked about this God knows how many times, not just with Shadur. There is a sliding scale of BS that you can put up with. Look, if this is Andrew Luck and he's got Shadur Sanders' attitude, at minimum, 10 teams in the NFL say, screw it, I don't care. Because you're just going,
the other thing.
This guy's 6'5", rocket for an arm, smartest quarterback we've maybe ever seen. The way he goes about everything he does is picture perfect. I don't care about his attitude.
And the thing about the New York interview in that process is that was a place that they thought he should have been. So you can only imagine what it was like at some of the other places where he didn't want to go to, that Dion had flagged of
no-go zones.
I'm gonna Eli Manning this thing and get you to the place I want to be. And all of those things play a big role. And that's on top of what he lacks as a quarterback himself. And we talked about this, and I've been saying this for the longest time, and I don't understand. I thought what Mel Kiper did during the draft coverage was embarrassing.
It was nasty.
I mean,
like a pouty child.
Yeah, in saying that the NFL doesn't know how to evaluate quarterbacks, neither do you or any other draft prognosticator. It's not just a Mel Kiper Jr. thing.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what it's like when you get to the NFL, because your offensive line matters, your scheme matters, your weapons around you matter, the division that you play in matters. All of those things we don't know yet.
Brandon Beane, the general manager of the Bills, we played it yesterday. He went on our Odyssey partner in Buffalo, was it WGR 550, and gave like a 2-minute tirade of like, can you guys stop complaining about everything? Do you remember in 2017 when we drafted Josh Allen and you guys specifically wanted Josh Rosen?
Yeah.
Maybe we know what we're doing here.
Well, and everybody, and this may break really well for Shadur because he might get humbled. He may just say, oh boy, maybe dad doesn't know everything because I'm not a transcendent talent like my dad was.
Yeah, and on top of that, look, if you're looking for the first piece of recognition, or good Lord, the first point of inflection for them where they recognized where something might be going wrong, Shiloh Sanders and Shadur were live streaming during the draft in case Shiloh got drafted. He said something along the lines of, yeah, I may have made a mistake in having my dad be my representative. The next day, the press release and the social media posts go out about Shiloh Sanders signing with Drew Rosenhaus. That's about as big of an indicator of we bleep this up.
Yep.
Like that is, I got to give Shiloh credit because this looks a lot like LeVar Ball, but his kids didn't get drafted. Lonzo and LaMelo both got drafted very high.
And I think there is real validity to people concerned and questioning the fact that Shadur's never been coached by anybody but his dad. From youth, and that means his high school coach was Dion.
Mm-hmm.
Then he took the job at Jackson State. Mm-hmm. Then he took the job at Colorado. That
setting him up for the best possible
nobody knows.
Light.
And I said this during the season last year. Shadur takes a ton of sacks that are his fault. Not all of them were.
No.
And they weren't. But he took a ton of sacks that were his own making and his own doing. Also pointed out that a lot of their play calling did not make sense because they'd be blowing a team out or they'd be down by a ton and they would just be padding stats. Mm-hmm. That was real.
Yeah.
Well,
did you hear the latest?
He was taking sacks so his completion percentage would be really high. You can't do that in the NFL. Sacks are drive killers. You want to see one way that you kill your drive in the NFL? It doesn't matter if it's a 1-yard sack or a 10-yard sack. Get sacked. That kills your drive.
Did you see the latest? Deion Sanders wants to be a part of Shadur Sanders' first meeting with the Browns.
No. If I'm the Browns, I'm like,
hell no.
No, thank you.
No. You can come to games.
Yeah.
You're not coming into the facility.
No.
You're not a coach here.
Mm-mm.
I don't care who you are.
That's brutal. And look, as a parent, his heart's in the right place.
Yes, but it's a hell no.
The execution is no.
It's absolutely a hell no. All right, when we wrap up today's show, we will talk about some NFL transactions that, they were in the making. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. It turns out Diana Rossini, she might have been right. She said George Kittle was looking to reset the tight end market, and indeed, George Kittle did reset the tight end market.
Yeah, yes, he did, with some caveats. In Rossini's tweet was that was the goal of George Kittle. And he called her out on it. He was like, that's not true. But he ended up signing a record extension today. 4 years, $76.4 million. $40 million is guaranteed, $35 at signing.
Yeah. That's a big old chunk.
And this is where his contract is only in it's pomp and circumstance. So Trey McBride signed for $19 million a year. This deal is worth 19.1. But when you kind of look at the details of it, this is only a for show deal.
Oh, yeah.
Because he, in the final year of his deal, he'll be making $22.4 million.
Non-guaranteed.
He will be 36 years old, and that year will be 2029. George Kittle will in all likelihood, will not be playing at 36. He's banged up now, entering 2025. So they did right by him. They gave him the old tip of the hat, but Trey McBride's deal is better.
Oh, sure.
But he got a ton of money, and hell yeah, I think tight ends should be paid way more.
Yeah, they should.
And I think that getting over that threshold, even just by a little bit more on an annual average salary, that's what tight ends need to be doing because, look, they are an extension of the offensive line and an extension of the receiving core. Every great team has a very good tight end. I mean, full stop on that.
Look, I said it when
he's the best.
Kittle said this about Rossini, that the reason he was frustrated was because the source that Rossini had was clearly way too close.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, he knew what he wanted. Look, and I don't begrudge a guy for resetting the market.
Well, Diana loves victory laps. Did she make a victory lap on this one?
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
If she did, it wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, yeah, no. They said somebody tweeted, said a lot of people owe Diana Rossini an apology.
She retweeted.
She said, it's all good. Happened before, it'll happen again. Glad it all worked out.
Look, Diana's about as sourced as it gets. If she's putting it out there, man.
Yeah, and her tweet originally was George Kittle wants to become the highest paid player at his position. And so her tweet today was George Kittle wanted to become the highest paid player at his position. Tuesday, he signed an extension that includes $40 million guaranteed and sets a record for average annual value. Booyah. She got it.
Nailed it.
Victory laps.
Yeah.
All right.
When you got the goods, you got the goods.
Yeah. Rossini's great. She does a really good job. All of their reporters, they miss a lot. They really do. They miss a ton. Doesn't matter how sourced you are, how good you are at
Things
your
can
job.
change.
Well, and
they're carrying some water.
So many franchises do misdirection too. It's in agents especially.
Look, it's why I want no part of the newsbreaker world in the NBA. There's just too much. There's just too much stuff.
Yeah. A
hard pass.
It's a dirty, dirty little world that they live in. But congrats to George Kittle. I love George Kittle.
No, and good on him in the fellow tight end cohorts of raising that line.
Those sickos. Yeah. All right, we got 3 NBA games tonight.
We do. Not all great.
Knicks Pistons. I like that game.
I'm in for that one. God, I'm still pissed about how that one ended. Yeah, the NBA said, "Oops, our bad." Yeah. Tim Hardaway Jr. got tackled. Yeah, no kidding.
That's a tough one to be like, my bad, but I'm glad they did it finally.
I'm sure Pistons fans are thrilled about it being down 3-1, where NBA teams win like 97% of the series instead of it being 2-2.
Yeah, it's really easy to win in Madison Square Garden too in the playoffs. Then we have Magic Celtics. Celtics can put the nail in the coffin of Orlando, and they need to do that. They're dinged up, man.
Drew Holiday is going to be out again, and they were talking about somebody else was potentially questionable. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think they were looking at maybe Tatum being questionable, even though he was incredible last game.
They need to sweep the leg. And then the game everybody should be watching, Clippers Nuggets, 7 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, with the most bonkers ending finish, which the NBA did confirm was the right call. The Aaron Gordon tip dunk was the right call on it being good.
That's only the second tip dunk like a dunk at the buzzer.
It's the first tip dunk since like 95 for a game winner. Like as like clock expiring.
Okay, so is that because the only other one I think of is DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix.
Yep.
Which was not 1995.
No, but it
Did
also
they not consider
there was,
that a dunk?
Well, no, there was still time left.
Okay,
It was like there's like 0.1 or 0.2.
That's the hardest part. Is how does that even happen?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Aaron Gordon's awesome. Did Jokic shoot it?
No, God no.
That was a pass?
Yeah.
We're gonna call it a pass? Okay. All right, that'll do it for us today. Hey, Rob's back. So coming up next, you got 4 hours of power from his mouth to your ears. It's prime time with Isaac and Buck right here on the Fan. Have a great Tuesday.
Bye.
Today, Beavers, Ducks, a college baseball battle at 5:30 on Coin 6 and streaming on Coin Plus. The third-ranked Oregon State Beavers have rocketed up the polls. Now the rival Oregon